Welcome to the Wednesday Night Live show. Due to copyright infringements, I can no longer play music, so here's a few seconds of me farting. That's because YouTube and Facebook suck, and that's what you're going to get into.
I did not approve that before you played it.
We will have a different intro next week. We're going to do something. Everybody's going to say a little clip, and we'll have that on, but we just didn't have time. So welcome, everyone, to another episode of Wednesday Night Live. We got a great show for you guys tonight. Doing our member spotlight down there in the middle, the bottom is Morgan Dailey. Our special guest tonight is Kevin Price, founder of THR for Life and former owner of Vapor ML e-liquids. Tim is always going to bring us the latest news and advocacy. Also, we've got the poll question of the week. How much would you say your vape budget is for the month? So let's not waste any time and say hello to these goofballs here. Tom Harding,
Howdy.
Tim Swift, Brian Power, and our two guests tonight, Morgan and Kevin Price. How you guys doing? How's everybody?
They're not married. Morgan actually has a last name different than Kevin.
Morgan
and Kevin Price.
Morgan Price. That sounds pretty good.
Anyway.
Yeah, woo, who knows?
Morgan Dailey. It's Morgan Dailey, everyone. Morgan Dailey.
We do not get people married on this show. We do not.
Not yet.
Not legally. Not legally.
It's not a matchmaking show yet.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll be back in 2 and 2. That was my Chuck Willery. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we had a thing going on the old ZampleBox community page, and when it was really popping, we used to have people end up getting married and dating, cross country. We've had a couple, right? 4 or 5 that have hooked up, and
4 people are now 2 couples.
And 2 couples, yeah, it's pretty.
When did all this happen?
That would be Janella and Eddie and Danielle and
right.
Tim.
Yeah. See,
that's right.
Tom with the brain. Wow.
Yeah, vaping
it happens.
Brings the community together. Hello,
wow,
look, Cube.
We have Berlin and New Zealand on the line tonight. No, I'm serious. Yeah. Tho is from Berlin. Yeah. Dan, they're from New Zealand.
Yeah.
Green Thumb, where are you from?
Green Thumb, I'm going to guess he's Midwest.
Not North Dakota. Not North Dakota.
There's only 4 people that actually live in North Dakota, and one of them is on the show right now.
Yeah, and everybody else lives in his house.
We feel so privileged.
Wife and kids.
His roommate, his wife, and his son, or his daughter. That's it.
You know how hard it is to get people from North Dakota to come out from underneath
the internet
out of their bomb shelters.
It's not strong. The internet's not strong. It depends where the moose are at that time of the day. Because those antlers, it blocks the Wi-Fi signal. So it's just
you know what they say about North Dakota? The roads are straight and the men are not.
Is that what they say, Brian?
Thank you.
Can you elaborate, Brian?
I don't know what you guys are talking about. But now that's just encouraging me to come visit every single one of you guys.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I'm in Indiana.
We're suspiciously we're on lockdown again, Brian.
I hate how that happens.
Oh, yeah, don't get the show banned. We're only 3 minutes and 58 seconds in. We don't want well, we are going to jump right into our member spotlight. So here we go. Morgan, are you ready for this? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you sure? Which one of these lovely guys would like to ask the first question?
Brian.
Meeny, miny, mo. Brian, that's you. Brian doesn't.
I don't even have the question.
All right.
Brian. Neither do I, Brian.
Morgan, let me start you off, Morgan. What was your first setup? You're too slow, Brian. You're punished. That's $100 fine.
So, first setup was an Aegis Solo with the Cerberus tank. Kind of when I first started, I didn't want anything really complicated or felt like a mod that could go up to like 100 watts was like really like scary to me. So I was kind of like something a little lighter, smaller. And so I was using that for a while until I got my other mod.
What mod was that?
You still have that?
I do, yeah. I still use it from time to time, but I use my Aegis X more often now. So
Nice.
But
Brian, go ahead, Brian. Go ahead, Brian. You had a question? You had a follow up, Tim? Or are you trying to
no,
think-
what
I
was
have one.
Oh, Jesus.
Does your family support your vaping?
well, it's kind of weird because for a while, like only my mom knew, because I was more so afraid that my dad of all people would kind of be really concerned, and I thought I'd hear like a big long lecture about it, but it was actually my mom who ended up being like really opposed to it. She absolutely does not like it, and she lets me know pretty much every chance she can get. I've tried the whole thing of showing her different different articles and stuff like that kind of disproves a lot of the misinformation out there about vaping, but she wants no part of it. She doesn't even bother like looking at them, and so I've kind of just gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, we can agree, so let's just agree to disagree and be over with it. My dad, like, his only big concern was whether or not I was using the CBD stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And, and so otherwise he was just like, I trust that have looked into it, that you've looked into this, that you have, done a lot of research. And so he's just like, that's fine. The rest of my family, for the most part, doesn't really know, just because I figure the less they know, the better.
Yes, they know.
Just but I've been working on trying to get my grandma to kind of stop smoking. So I've kind of introduced her to vaping, and she's been kind of trying it out, and she seems to like it. And so I've been really happy that I've been able to kind of help some family start to get away from smoking and move to vaping. So
Well, I think that's the whole success story in it, right? It's not, I mean, our journeys are unique in and of their own right, but it's about the community and it's about helping other people. That's really what it was kind of based on is using this to help other people. So I think that's great. So I have a question. I'm going to go back up the chain. What was the first e-liquid that you tried that got you kind of locked in?
Well, the first one I tried was I believe that the company name is Excision, and that was their Paradox juice, which is like a grape based flavor, and I really liked it. But I think because I was still so new to vaping, I think I didn't really get the full enjoyment out of it. And since now that I've been vaping for a little bit longer, I've come to really like it. I'm trying to think of the other juice that like I'd kind of tried after that. I'm pretty sure it was a Jam Monster. I believe it was the
Jam Monster.
blueberry one,
Mm-hmm.
and that was really, really good. And then I've kind of like gone down a rabbit hole of just always wanting to like try different juices from different shops. And
so at this point, would you quantify yourself as being you're a fruit flavored based vapor, or are you broad based? Do you get into the desserts and the coffees and the whatever lychees of the world?
oh yeah. I mean, I like all the fruits, pretty much all the desserts. I pretty much stick with those. There was even Country Clouds. They had a chocolate pie like pudding one, and I didn't think that I would really like a chocolate juice, because I've just heard about like how strong it is, and I thought don't know if I'll like it, but I bought it and thought, well, I'll try. And I'm like, wow, this is really, really good. And so I've been trying to branch out and try other things that I wouldn't normally try out.
Awesome. No, I like it. Yeah. See, we've all had that adventure.
Yeah.
Brian. You ready, Brian? Don't make me find you another
Yeah,
100
I
bucks.
actually had to like go through my messy desk to find my questions here. So just it's okay. So out of curiosity, like with all your with the travel through your vaping succession, I should say,
Mhm.
have you delved into like advocacy groups and like been a part of any?
I haven't quite gotten signed up for, anything yet. I've been meaning to. It's on the to-do list. I definitely want to be a part of CASA. I really want to kind of get involved in maybe some, Wisconsin-based, groups and kind of, do things that way. I have participated in, signing, things online for different, groups and stuff like that. So I've been kind of, delving into it. It's been more like down the to-do list.
Yeah.
All right, Morgan. How has your vaping style changed over the years? How long have you been vaping now?
Oh gosh, probably only like definitely less than 6 months. So it hasn't
6
been
months. Yeah, you've
that
been
long.
yeah, you've been steady. So you haven't. You're using a what was your device again?
The Aegis X, and
The
then
Aegis
right,
X.
right now I have a Horizon Falcon 2 tank on there right now. But it's I feel like things have changed a lot already, because before I was more comfortable with kind of like the 30 to 50 like watt range of things, and then kind of when I got into different coils, I started kind of branching up to like the 70 to 80 range, and then you guys helped me get into the whole RDA thing.
We got you. We got you building. We got you
Right.
building.
Right. So I've, been kind of slowly, branching out into different, areas of vaping. So even though I haven't been vaping that long, I think I've, branched out, a lot since.
So for people, well, I'm pretty sure most people in the chat probably been vaping for a while too. But did you find that you were around that 30 to 50 watt range because you were concerned about temperature or the harshness of the vape, but then you found that you could go up to 70 and potentially higher based on the resistance to that coil, and you still kind of get that comfortable vape, not a harsh throat hit, Were you surprised by that?
Yeah, I mean, when I had first started vaping, even at like 30, 40 watts, it was a big adjustment. And I found myself kind of messing around with like the airflow, and stuff like that, trying to not make it as, much of a hit, and to kind of, control like the temperature in some ways. And then I think it was just kind of a matter of just like getting used to like certain wattages, and then like slowly like building my way up.
Yeah.
And then I kind of found that, well, I can leave the airflow totally open and it's not that bad. And I was like, well, I can, actually taste the juice a lot more,
Yeah.
with opening it up. So it was kind of just a gradual, process of, working my way up and just getting used to vaping and in general.
Awesome.
Kevin, you got a question you'd like to ask her? I put him on the spot.
You could tell I wasn't paying attention. Huh?
Kevin came prepared.
Hold on a second.
You've been doing it long enough to have something to throw at a newbie.
Let me see. Do you plan on quitting vaping?
Like, I can honestly say that I don't really see myself quitting anytime soon, really. I mean, I just don't, and maybe this is how, lots of people feel too, but I don't see any like glaring reason as, to why I would need to quit. So yeah, just as of now and for the unforeseeable future, I don't really see myself quitting.
I can relate to that. I was never going to quit smoking, and I knew it was pretty bad for my health. The physical part of life was non-existent for most of my life because I smoked, and someone would say, "Hey, let's play basketball," and I'd be like, I don't think I want to cough up some lung cheese and pass out on the court.
Yeah.
So I can completely relate to that, Morgan. And you know, now that I hope that you're feeling a difference that you're vaping. I know I do. I'm a little bit more advanced in age than you are, obviously. Look at the hairline. But I am more athletic now than I have been in the last 35 years of my life, believe it or not.
Same here,
So,
Kevin.
I mean, I could do 12-ounce curls all day long and not get winded.
Yeah.
Tommy boy, since you are the only other person that lives in Wisconsin that is here, you can give her the last question.
Tom, look at my wall. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Look at that.
look,
Oh,
at,
yeah.
at the end of the show, we will be burning that banner. Just
No,
so
we
you
won't.
know.
No.
All right, let me find the questions again.
You know the last one.
I
Well,
have it
actually,
right
there's
here.
one more last one to that one. So
Yeah.
Kick it
Do,
to
do number 10.
Number 10.
number 10.
All right, give me a second.
I updated the sheet live
Hey, thanks.
while we were here.
Holy shit!
I don't
10
see
was
that
just-
update. Where is
What's
it
your
at?
favorite setup?
I think my favorite, well, I kind of suppose it depends on what, mood I'm in, but like I often kind of go with my Aegis X, and then a lot of the time I still use my sub-ohm tanks. I want to kind of get into having an RDA be like a part of my favorite setup, but there's just a lot of times where I don't always want to be dripping every couple hits, so I haven't quite fully adjusted to using an RDA all the time, but eventually I'm hoping that's going to be like the ultimate setup for me.
Squonk.
Squonk.
Squonk. Yeah,
Sure.
you can do your RDA and squonk, and you don't have to drip anymore. We'll help you with that too, Morgan. Don't worry.
Sweet.
We'll help you spend your money.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
Sounds
Yeah, yeah. We all know all too well about that. All right, 11. Should we do 11?
Go ahead.
I added it. You guys probably didn't catch it because it's on Google Docs.
I caught it.
See, Tom.
Well, I had
So-
to go to Google Docs to see. The
So
questions anyway,
this
so.
is so I just want to
We
clarify
have
the
10
question.
questions here.
Well, there's an 11th. Yeah, this
Yeah,
is the ghost
we-
question. This
Oh,
is the
you
ghost
guys.
question of the night.
That's
So,
some trickery.
yes. So I want to quantify this question. This is not about you specifically. So when this question is asked, this is about vaping as in its totality. Because we're under a ton of fire already.
Yeah.
So if there was one thing that you could pick that could save vaping as a whole, what would that thing be? Like, if there's one thing you're like, okay, I'm cool with that being given up or sacrificing that. What would that be if it meant saving vaping the rest of the way?
Is it something that I have to use, like that I'm currently using, or is it something I can just kind of like?
So
Vape-related.
an example would be like, get rid of 50 milligram Nick salts because some people think that that's a little too high. Like if that could be thrown out, and then regulators would be like, okay, cool, we'll get rid of the 50, and then everybody's cool. You all can vape whatever flavors you want, whatever devices you want. Like one thing that is an encapsulation of vaping that you see as maybe problematic or causing one of the issues, but you could say, I'm okay with giving that up, and then that saves vaping for everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably go with the salt Nick thing too. I mean, I don't use it, so I mean, for me, it's kind of like, oh well, it's okay if we get rid of it, but I'm sure maybe for those that do, they're like, no, don't do that. But yeah, I mean, for me, that's what I would say. All right, you can have this, and then vaping will be fine. Then sounds good.
We lost
think
Kevin.
I think the power went out. There he is.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah,
Did
it's all right.
the moose move? And
The beard jumped up and hit.
No,
the,
I was actually
Leave
trying
studio.
to sign up on the comments so I could comment in the chat, and it kicked me out. So.
Oh.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you can't comment. Like, I can't even comment. I don't think. Not live. I can only do it if I go
Wow.
on the page.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
trying. That's what I was trying to do. So I apologize.
Yeah, yeah. Usually you could like if you have a tablet or a phone handy. That's what some of these. I think that's what most of you guys do.
I
think
just
I'm
have
the only,
two screens rolling.
Yeah, you got the two screens rolling. If you have a PC.
Multitasking.
Yeah.
And we multitask.
Yeah, I got multiple screens here too. Actually, you should have the link for the group though, and you should be able to comment in the Facebook group. I sent you
Wow.
the invite quite a while ago, actually.
Way to make me feel dumb, Brian.
You're welcome.
I'm supposed to be the IT guy here.
That's what you get for being a Packer fan in Minnesota.
Wow.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
Oh,
Wow.
the purple people eaters.
Yeah.
The Vikings.
Wait,
just
wait.
suck.
What?
Ke-
Wait.
Kevin, all you have to say is how many championships does Green Bay have, and how many does the Vikings
13 to 0.
Tom,
It's
you
another
are
show.
correct, sir.
have? That's all you need
You
to
are
say.
correct.
That shuts up every Viking fan.
There's a reason why they call it Title Town, and that's why it's the Lombardi Trophy, buddy.
Yeah.
And by the way, what football team does North Dakota have?
Well, so we're all like Minnesota fans here. That's what happens.
I don't
What do you
think
mean
John
all of
is.
us? Why are you piling us into that?
And I don't think
We're
John
all-
is too. John, it might be
John's a-
San Francisco Rams.
No, I'm a Rams. I'm a Rams
Or
fan.
No,
Raiders
no, I'm talking like
or-
the people in North Dakota are Minnesota fans. That's what I say. All of us.
He said, "Oh,
You know, if you love enjoying losing, I guess that
That's
works
it.
for you.
yeah,
Hey, well, we all got you for something, right?
yeah."
Yeah.
All right, Morgan.
Sorry, Brian, I
We
wasn't
want to
trying to
thank
throw you
you
under
for
the bus.
doing the member. We want to thank you for doing the member spotlight. Like I told you earlier, you're welcome to stay on and
Sure, yeah.
yeah, as we are going to be interviewing Kevin, you can come up if you have a question that you want to ask. Let us know. Raise your hand.
Okay.
Throw it
Okay.
at Kevin.
This isn't Zoom. We don't have happy little emojis.
I
don't have-
have been pushing StreamYard to add the little button that you
To
guys
raise your
can
hand.
click. Yeah, the raise your hand button, so I can see, I can see it and everybody else, but nobody can actually see it if they're
a
watching
good
the
idea.
video.
There's one on my screen, but I think if I click it, I'll get kicked out of the group.
You might.
Don't do that. Green Thun wishes you the best on your vape journey. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Awesome.
That's what it's
Appreciate
about. It's about our community. I think it's the greatest, one of the best communities I've been a part of. It's just, it amazes me that all the friendships that are made through vaping and with the shows and the Facebook groups and all the friendships.
Yeah, I mean,
Well-
I'll just quick say, like, when I started really like watching the show and just commenting and participating, I felt like I was a part of something, and it felt really nice, especially with all the crazy times that we're in right now, where we're not getting together, we're not doing
Yeah.
things together, and it felt pretty fulfilling to actually be a part of something. So I want to thank you guys for having me on. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, I have
Awesome.
the clap thing. I have the clap thing somewhere.
Do the
That
clap
didn't
thing.
sound
Do
right.
the-
I
do
have
the-
the clap thing. That didn't
Yeah.
sound right.
There's a
I got
shot
that.
for that.
I
Yeah,
got
there
it.
is
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Beat
got
me
it from
to
a-
it.
I got it from a toilet seat. We are going to jump in to Kevin. Kevin, welcome to the show. We'd like to start off with you just letting everybody out there know who you are and what you do.
Well, I've been in vaping for 8 years or so. Started back in 2013. Smoked for 35 years. So that answers question 1 and 2. My first setup was a Chi U. Well, actually, it was a blue cig that I was dripping in because I picked the end off the filter, but that doesn't really count, does it?
I didn't try that. Now I need to go back and get my blue kit out of the box.
And the other day I found it. It was sitting on my shelf over behind me, and I said, "There's my damn blue cig," and I used to drip in that thing, and it's just funny how we progressed through the systems. And I remember when the variable voltage Ego pen came out, and that was, with the dangling braided. What did they call it?
The
was
silica wick.
Yeah, the silica wick,
Silica.
and we thought we were just, the bee's knees with that one, and I think back then I was doing a 18 milligram cherry that tasted like really bad NyQuil, and it was still better than an ashtray. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So um, that I would say the Chi-U with a mech mod was my first true setup. After I realized that there was something out there besides the blue cig I could drip into, and the first e-liquid that helped me beat the cravings was actually a flavor called Unicorn Blood, made by God, he's gonna kill me.
Was that the Vapor Chef?
Shane Johnson. He still makes it to this day.
Okay.
I don't know if I can plug him on here, but he's a great
plug
guy, and from time to time I'll buy a 120 mil from him and just go back down memory lane and vape some of that stuff, and it's still just the same that it was back then.
That's awesome.
So, I really thought that making e-liquid would be the venue to go ahead.
No, it was Cutwood. Cutwood.
No. Cutwood came after that.
It came after that. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Cutwood came after that. I had a distant relative that worked for Cutwood, and he sent me some unicorn milk, and I vaped that whole 120 mil like it was going out of style, and I decided I could do something similar and made my own e-liquid. So that was how I started advocating, was helping people quit smoking by making e-liquid, and that progressed over the years. But I'm trying to follow the question line here without getting out of order. Does my family support vaping? Absolutely. My mom doesn't. She's 82. She listens to the media a little bit too much, and I'll blow a cloud of vapor near her, and she'll. But she smokes.
Yeah.
So it's and I think Morgan alluded to some of that family members that they just don't want to hear the truth, and all you can say is, yeah, you just keep smoking. Then it's come to that point in our lives where we know what's good for us, and we've done the research, and there's those of us that recognize it's a healthier alternative, and then there's those that refuse to look at the facts. And unfortunately for me, that's my mom. I've tried to convince her over the last 8 years to give up the cigarettes, but what are you going to tell an 80-year-old woman?
That's what I was just going to say. I'm in the same situation with an 89-year-old, and it's just like he just looks at me like, I've got this far, John.
Right. And literally, what are you going to, hey, you need to quit that so you can live to 109? I mean, I don't know what the answer is there, but,
it's
I found out that although I enjoyed making e-liquid and making a lot of money doing it, because this was the days when you made $1 a mil, and I really felt like my true calling was to educate smokers. And shortly after being very successful with e-liquid with Vapor Mill LLC, I started up the Colorado Safada chapter, and I invited some big names into that one. I moved pretty quick, so when an advocacy group doesn't go the route that I think they should, which is following consumers, which is where the power literally comes from, I move on. After that, I created Colorado Smoke Free Organization, or Colorado Smoke Free Association, CSFA. And then leaving that behind, I created THR for Life, Tobacco Harm Reduction for Life. I also helped VTA establish state groups in about 5 different states, Ohio, and a few others. So I've been in the background of the advocacy scene quite a bit. I've fundraised a lot of money. I come up with plans of attack, and one of the things I did want to share with you guys today is if the people watching or listening would take a minute to go to the World Health Organization FCTC page. And I want everybody to be aware that years ago, probably 4 years ago, I stumbled across this in my research, because it seems like in advocacy we are, you know, we've got all these vaping bans, we've got these taxes, we got these prohibitions. You can't vape in public, you can't vape in a park. And, you know, I was like, it almost feels like they're trying to destroy our resources, our funds, and our time chasing after the tail of the dragon. So the only way to really kill a dragon is not to cut off its tail, but to get to its head and stick a sword right in its brain, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing some research, and I found out that the World Health Organization, FCTC, is actually the group that is funded by Bloomberg. They receive billions of dollars from countries all over the world, including the United States. And these guys implement policy in third world countries, Africa, Asia's, Middle Eastern countries, and they establish these policies like, what would a dollar tax on a pack of cigarettes do? What would happen if we banned vaping for people under 21? This is where it all starts. It's funded, it's tested across the globe in smaller countries that are really, they don't have any ability to fight this. And when they find successes, they write policy, and that policy is given to our tobacco control groups here in the United States. I'm not sure how many of you guys are aware of this. Can I see your hands? None of you.
News to me.
Yeah.
You guys never knew this.
No.
I've known this for the last 3 or 4 years, and I've posted it publicly on Facebook and everywhere. Sometimes I feel like I'm screaming at the top of the mountain and somebody's cut my vocal box out because nobody seems to hear it. So this is where it's all emanating from. They create the anti-vape policy, they test it in third world countries, and then it's brought here, handed to tobacco control. And of course, tobacco control, we all know how they're funded. And that's how all this stuff is coming to us. If you guys aren't aware of this, we need to start focusing on the head of the dragon if we're ever going to win, because chasing the tail and chasing after these ants, you know, the anti-nicotine tobacco zealots, is simply that. We're never going to win chopping at the tail. So if you want to kill the dragon, you've got to go for the head, which is the World Health Organization, FCTC. It's all in writing. It's all on their site. I wish I could comment because I put a link in there, but you guys can go there yourself.
I have it. I pulled it up. I'm going to put it in a private chat. And then
search that out, and they lay it all out. It's right there in plain sight of the entire world to see. And we're all funding it. Taxpayers are funding it. We are funding this to destroy a life-saving industry. A public health miracle is being destroyed by our own tax dollars. And to me, that is not only shocking, but it makes me angry. And at my age, you can't get angry because all you can do is punch a hole in the wall and then fix it yourself, or, you know, have a heart attack. Which one are you going to do? So I just wanted to share that with everybody. We can chase after CTFK. We can be mad. We can go to city council meetings, but if you don't cut it off at its source, I mean, you think about warfare in general. What did some of the most successful generals do when they fought? They cut off the supply line.
Yeah.
They went to the ports and they sabotaged the ships that supplied the army that was fighting against them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why wouldn't we do the same to save vaping? Why wouldn't we go after the WHO FCTC and attack the members there? I mean, not on it like a, hey, I'm going to murder your children, but
no.
you know what I mean? Expose them for what they're doing and the motivation behind what they're doing is simply funding. We all know that.
Yeah.
We already know that the whole tobacco tax is going right back into the master settlement agreement, right? The states all agreed to, hey, yeah, we'll take that money.
Yep.
And we'll use it as a slush fund and use a very little percentage of it to actually help people quit smoking, you know?
Yep.
Well, it's really quite shocking. And the reason I'm frustrated is because I've been doing advocacy for 8 years. 8 years. That's almost a decade. That's a lot more than most people even knew what vaping was.
Mhm.
And I have repeatedly told people, this is the source. This is the source. I mean, if you have an oil line leaking on natural lands, for those of you that are environmentally conscious, I'm not, but
Leak.
what are you're going to stop the leak? You're not going to go at the end of it and put, paper towels there and dab up the oil off the grass, right?
Yeah.
That's essentially what we're doing in vaping is we're putting paper towels around the edge of the oil leak.
Yeah.
And everybody's ignoring the pipeline that's busted open and gushing out thousands of gallons of oil, for lack of a better analogy. So I didn't mean to get off on a tangent, but I think everybody needs to be aware of that.
No, it's perfect. Well,
Um,
it kind of leads me into one of my questions for you, but you kind
Hold
of
on, John.
What's that?
Hold on. We had a question in chat. How do you expect to win against the WHO?
Well,
okay, so for every power, there's a weakness. Okay, so if you want to look at this strategically, how do we determine what funding goes to the WHO from the United States? I can't speak for other countries because we can't control them, right? But we have an organization within our Congress that funds the World Health Organization. It's a lot easier to pressure those politicians. There's 13 of them, okay? It's a lot easier to pressure those 13 politicians than it is to go after the entire congressional body or Senate. So there's your answer. All right. Instead of us throwing all this money at fighting ants on the end of the oil leak, we need to be figuring out how to stop that pipeline leak by going after the people that fund the WHO from the United States.
yeah,
Is everybody following me on that?
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Does it make sense?
It makes sense. Makes total sense.
Okay, so that's how we do it. If we can put enough pressure or influence on these 13 politicians, we can stop the flow of the money to WHO from America. And guess what? When you put a bad dent in that, all you have left is Bloomberg and Gates funding them. Let them blow their freaking money.
Yeah,
Let them spend their money. I love seeing them burn their money.
we got
know
enough
what?
to burn.
That's right. Burn your money. Make a bonfire with it, son of a bitch. Because I'm here.
He probably lights his cigars with $100 bills. No, I'm
He
kidding.
probably does, but that's where it's coming from. And the sooner we all recognize that, the better. And my frustration comes from these battles, and some of them are necessary at the state and at the federal level. We've got to stave them off there as well, but we have to come up with a plan of attack at this WHO FCTC level, where we all organize and fund and go after the people that are funding that from the United States, and we can really damage it that way. That's an example or an analogy for cutting off the food supply against the army that you're fighting against.
Yeah,
Right?
right. Let me ask you, well, kind of this one. Being someone that is very active and in touch with the vape community, do you feel that our message is being diluted by so many individuals with different agendas? Because that seems to be a huge, huge, huge problem.
Absolutely. So here's the thing that really is disappointing in the advocacy scene. Okay, I've been around top-notch advocates, personalities, Hollywood style personalities in advocacy. Most of them have the best intentions at heart. Some of them are using it as a marketing ploy. and a lot of them are capitalizing on it. You can see my situation here. I'm not living in a castle. I've never made a penny off of advocacy. I've never taken money from advocacy for personal gain, not a dime. Every single penny that's been donated to THR for Life has gone right back to education for smokers or doing events, speaking and educating people on what they need to do to make sure that this technology stays available to smokers and that we can bring facts to the general public. Which brings me to another point, but I'm not trying to get off on tangents here, but
this is your part of the show.
It's your
buddy.
time.
well, I don't mean to take up the whole show, you guys, but
All right, somebody kick Kevin off the show. He's talking too much.
yeah, kick me off,
Kevin.
Brian. You're my friend, right?
Kevin owes us all a beer.
So
Well, since you're a
it's
Packers
interesting,
fan
you
now, I
guys.
don't know.
It's interesting that they have 13 titles, but
There you go. See, he's got it down now.
but it's interesting that I watch and I scream this and I scream it and nobody seems to pay attention because you know what? I'm not the front man. I'm not the celebrity. I don't have a big e-liquid company. I don't make mods. I don't have a scheme or a theme that attracts people to me. I just speak the truth, and for the most part I've kind of been recognized but at the same time ignored. So it's frustrating for me. I know where the truth is. I know where the answer is, but what influence do I have? Zero.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to convince when you've got somebody that is really positive and everybody's like, oh, I love this guy, and I'm thinking of a certain person, but they bring all this money and it flows into these advocacy groups, and these advocacy groups refuse to recognize the start of where the leak is at, where it's all coming from. And it almost seems like these groups want to keep putting out the brush fires and not actually address the freaking drought that we're having. And I use analogies a lot because people can understand it better. It's frustrating, and I don't know what the answer is other than to tell people, look, you've been lied to by the media. Here's the truth. Here's where the source is coming from. Here's who's feeding this information and creating these policies, writing them and handing them to anti-nicotine tobacco zealots that your state is funding, because your state will not take information from anybody but the WHO and anybody but CDC. Try it. Try to intervene. Try to give them other information. They are on strict guidelines to only take World Health Organization and CDC guidelines on vaping. So even if you brought valid points, they're not allowed to even consider that data.
Right.
And to me, that's freaking insanity.
Yeah.
That's insanity. That is completely crazy. We've got all this evidence of we're all anecdotal assholes here, pardon my French, but none of us have smoked cigarettes in I don't know how long, but vaping doesn't help you quit smoking. It's bad for kids. That's the message. And
Right.
I don't know, you guys. It's just bizarre. It's just absolutely, it's bizarro world. And sometimes I look at it and I'm like, is this really happening?
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus Christ, we're trying to help people quit smoking, and we have, and yet they say the evidence is not clear, or what do you hear? Flavors attract kids. Well,
Yeah.
so do carnivals. And have you seen the people that work there?
Yeah. Well, that's something I brought up years and years ago when we first started this show. It's just, it amazes me how far we've gotten to be disliked in this country. When the blue first came out, it was on the Phil Donahue show. It was on all these talk shows. They were
Yeah.
praising this product. They were like, thank God, finally something's here that's going to help these people with quitting smoking.
Right.
And then something happened. And
Well-
I always ask the question, what happened? But obviously now, as time has gone by, we kind of realized what happened, and it blew up too fast, and it just people were just putting whatever kind of labels they wanted. They were naming juices whatever they wanted to name them, and I think that's where people started opening their eyes, with the cartoon characters, the oddball names.
It was never the labels, although they played a part.
They played a
But
part. Yeah,
I'll tell you what happened was the CPAs for the states and the attorney general said, "Hey, we're losing revenue.
Yeah.
Why do we have this gap in revenue?" And somebody said, "Well, I don't know, but it looks like there's a correlation between people quitting smoking, paying taxes on cigarettes, and this vaping thing."
Yeah.
And bingo, guess what? They added 2 and 2 pretty quick.
Yeah,
And who FCTC was feeding the ants all the little test runs that they did in third world countries, and they said, "Here's how you kill it.
Yeah.
Here's how you kill it." If you go to that page, it tells you everything in there, exactly how they researched it, exactly how they came up with their ploys. And if you've ever been able to be invited to one of these tobacco control seminars, they straight up say it. It's about the money. They do not give a shit about our health. They do not give a crap about the kids. It's all about their state funding continuing to come in. And I've told them on numerous occasions in public, how do you sleep at night knowing that you're allowing people to continue to kill themselves when there's a better alternative out there because you want to keep your job?
Yeah.
Can you answer Michelle's question there real quick on finding the information on those 13 politicians?
That would be in probably your Ways and Means Committee.
Yeah. Hopefully.
All you got to do is look at who FCTC is funded by, and you'll see United States, which is referred by the department from the Senate or the congressional body that funds those. So I'm sorry I don't have more concrete answers right now. It's been a few years since I looked it up, and at my age, you forget a lot of shit unless you take your ginkgo biloba. So,
you taking your meds for your prostrate too? We're the same age, you and I and Tim. So I don't know if Tim's taking his prostrate medicine or not, but Paul
no,
Sala,
I just throw AARP mail in the trash.
Yeah. Tim, you haven't started your 1-a-day tablet yet?
No, I'm YOLO, John. YOLO.
Get on that. One of the problems that I've noticed in the last 9 years in the industry as a whole, they can't agree on rules and regulations. We have the big guns, the e-liquid companies fighting B&Bs. We got B&Bs fighting websites over what's fair. Do you feel this is one of the key problems holding up legislation? And it almost feels like the government sees this. They see that we're fighting each other, and I think the only one that's losing this battle is us, the consumer. So, I mean,
absolutely. So this is strategic, you guys. It's very simple to look at it from, hey, how do we kill this vaping thing that we know is gaining traction? And it's pretty easy to see. If you want to exhaust our resources, which we have a finite amount of, okay, compared to the billions that tobacco has and pharmaceutical, who are all in this game too. Plus you got Bloomberg, and you got Gates, and you got World Health Organization, FCTC, and all the countries in the world throwing money at them. All they got to do is have us keep chasing that tail of the dragon. So Tobacco 21, let's ban flavors. They know we'll exhaust our resources chasing the end of the tail all over the country, whipping back and forth. And they're laughing at us. They're laughing at us because while the head is eating fresh meat, we're chasing the tail and getting flung with dung.
Yeah. And to interject a little bit, I feel like part of the result of the campaign that they've effectively launched with all this subsidiary stuff, I think they also realized that it was it's a common strategy, but you know, the way they did it, they opened up a door to allow us to start sort of arguing with each other over different elements of what's better to keep or who's going to win versus who's going to lose. And I don't want to get long winded on this. I'm just saying one would be the common argument or the conversation we would have, like where with the omnibus bill and they went after USPS and the vape mail ban. Now, granted, we've been able to sort of usurp that a little bit. But that created additional infighting in the community where it was like, oh, like the vape shops, some openly verbal vape shop owners were like, oh, great, we're finally now we can get rid of the online market, and that brings the customer back to me. And then you have this constant online battle of people, you know, mad at the vape shops for charging too high of prices, and then you got, you know, so they can defeat us that way too, which is one thing that we try to promote here on the show, and is that we shouldn't be fighting each other at all, period, no matter who has the upper leg. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of posturing. Okay, every advocacy groups wants to be top of the food chain. Okay, they want the funding, they want the recognition, they want people to pay attention to them. I'm kind of losing train of thought here, but when you have issues like the pact, there's been several waves of ways to destroy the industry. Divide and conquer is one of them. They knew that the PACT Act had partial support from the industry because you have your brick and mortar stores that said, hey, we don't like the online because somebody can buy a Vupu drag for $48 shipped and we sell it for $79.
Yeah.
Because we got to keep the lights on and pay employees, and we got unemployment insurance and utility bills, etc. So of course there's that selfish, and I don't want to call it selfish, but it's survival mode. You know, it is survival of the fittest. And if you can lobby to get your point of view across in your state, county, city, or even the entire nation, you win. So yeah, there's infighting, and the division is intentional. They know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
These guys are funded by billions of dollars. I'm telling you, it's all planned. All of this has been planned since probably 2015, 2014. This is when they started to ramp this up. When the previous administration back in 2008 enacted the Tobacco Prevention Family Tobacco, you know what that act is.
Yeah.
where they said that nicotine is tobacco is nicotine.
Yeah, 2012. Yeah.
That's when it started. So when it started there, that was shortly after the FDA lost their case against who was that guy? They were importing e-cigarettes, and they said it's tobacco, and they said it's medicinal, and they said no, it's tobacco. Okay, and that set the grounds for them to write
Isn't that iJoy? iJoy had
Yes.
that lawsuit before.
Hi, Joe.
Yeah, so that's where it all started, you guys. So if you go back to that era, you can see that the groundwork was laid then, and who FCTC got involved. We funded them. Tobacco control groups recognized the threat early on. Accountants and CPAs verified that, and now here we are.
Yeah.
So it's really very elementary as far as economics. It's easy to see, but we've been distracted by whose process or whose take on how to win it is the best, and we've thrown a lot of money to the wrong direction. The whole time we should have been looking at who FCTC and these legislators funding it.
Yeah.
Had we done that to begin with, we probably would have defeated and killed this dragon a long time ago.
Yeah. So how do we?
Oh,
How,
hold on, Tim. Let me
Yeah,
get what's her question answered. As a mixologist, can you answer that question for her, Kevin?
Okay. I saw that earlier, and that
Yeah.
did catch my attention.
I knew
Sean,
it did. I saw your eyes light up.
Sean, I am completely opposed to sweeteners. We know that they create some very bad things when they're heated. That's why I have never used it in my e-liquid. I refuse to vape it. I've always been, if you go back on my timeline on Facebook, I have denounced the use of sweeteners. However, it does have a beneficial purpose to smokers because people that quit smoking have a propensity to gravitate towards much sweeter items, just as anybody coming off of an addiction does. So if you were to have an addiction to cocaine and you quit, you'd probably eat a lot of Crunch Berry cereal. And you might even put sugar on that shit that's already sugar. So, I can't say it's worse than smoking because it isn't, but it's just not for me because to me, yeah, it's bad. It's still magnitudes better than smoking to have sweetener in e-liquid than smoking a cigarette. So there's that 2 cents.
You made me have a childhood flashback. Me adding more sugar to my cereal when I was
There you go. There you go.
Go ahead, Tim.
No, I was going to kind of loop back on because I mean Kevin has obviously introduced some very important information on the show tonight. So we talk about going for the head of the dragon, and maybe for lack of having the celebrity or being the head of a particular vaping advocacy organization. How do you suggest that we start the mobilization in order to go to that source? I mean, it's not like we have an open commentary thing where we can just go and complain to the FCTC. So how do we shift or aggregate the focus of the vaping community to start looking at that as the head of the dragon and start going for that?
Okay, so right now, who do we have out there that is consumer driven?
Because Safada is more business.
There you go. That's the mothership for THR for life, and we haven't done a lot together in the last year or two. But CASA would be your venue to donate to, and tell them what you want the money to go to. CASA doesn't like getting tied up with policy a whole lot, but their calls to action have huge impact. The consumer voice and the consumer dollar is far more powerful than you guys could ever imagine. THR for Life, we're a 501c3, so any donations made to us are tax deductible. However, right now our website is in flux. It's being rebuilt. We've been off the fucking map for. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to drop that F-bomb.
You can say the F-bomb.
We've been off the map for over a year because COVID really kind of screwed up the whole where do we go from here thing. How do you have an event when everybody's supposed to be separated? So I would say CASA is a good place to put your money and tell them what you want them to do because they listen to you guys. Once THR for Life gets back up, I'm going to start hammering who FCTC, and I'm going to start bringing that message back out from 4 years ago that I started but was ignored about.
I put your Facebook link out there. That's a good enough place to?
You guys don't want to see my personal page.
No.
No,
It's got
the
Green Bay emojis all over it.
Right.
Oh, you mean the
THR.
Yeah.
THR for Life? It's pretty inactive right now, but it's just Tobacco Harm Reduction for Life on Facebook.
Yeah, I put
and it's the number 4. So I would type it in there, but I get kicked off the chat.
No, I got it. I got it up. I put it in. It's in the chat as well as they can see it on the page too.
Here's another problem with being 50 plus is
Your
this
eyesight.
looks like ants crawling across my screen. I can see
Yeah.
Zachary, I can see Cantrell, but anything under that that's not bold, it just kind of looks like
Yeah, I posted
red
the
ants
link,
versus black ants fighting.
and Brian will post it in the Brian. You can post that link. It's in the private chat for that page as well on the other group pages. I can't.
Yeah, and to the people in the chat, Sean was asking, what are some without sweeteners? I know there's some companies out there, like I know Zophie Vapes is a big anti-sweetener vapor.
Yeah.
And she I don't remember that line. It's kind of like these brown paper bag type labels. And
I
it
love
kinda,
those.
Yeah, and it has sort of that. It's like kind of antiquated font on it or whatever. But
Yeah.
there are some good companies out there that do
And
no
it's
sweetener
PG
based.
free too.
You know, that reminds me of when I had my first Toyota Corolla, and I used to wear a brown paper bag over my head when I drove it around.
When you were driving through Minnesota. No, I'm joking.
When I was driving through Los Angeles there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, there. I think the one that she uses too. I think it's PG free too. I think there's a few people. I know. It's
Well,
a
the
small
one
percentage.
Tea Time is one of her favorite brands, Tea Time,
Yeah.
and I think they make several flavors that are sweetener free.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not here to plug any e-liquid companies.
Yeah, you can plug it.
But I really don't. The ones that are left are doing what they got to do, and it's
Yeah.
PMTA. That whole thing was another wave of how to destroy an industry 101. You go back to, you remember when they put the bottle regs where you had to have the childproof caps, and they laid that on us and said anything in inventory after today has to be destroyed. That was another attack on vape shops and manufacturers. I mean, there's a whole bunch of moves they made to financially destroy us. And yet here we are. I'd say probably estimated 14 million vapors in the US right now. They're never going to recover that money back, because no matter how much BS they feed us, we know we feel better vaping compared to smoking.
Mm-hmm.
So they can perpetuate their lies all they want, but the truth is in the the day-to-day activity. Proof is in the pudding. So
If you had to pick 3 important factors to win this fight with our government, what would they be? 1, 2, and 3. Come on.
Number one would be amplify the consumer voice and dollar. That's where the power is. The power is in the consumer. You look at, if a company does something you don't like, what do? You boycott them, right? You apply that same logic to putting your funds. If everybody that vape put in $1 towards going after these 13 senators that decide on how much money goes to who, FCTC.
Yeah.
If we had $14 million, you think we couldn't get some really powerful people to show up in Washington?
Yep.
Yeah. Or you think we couldn't influence an election? Yeah, we could.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where the problem lies, is the unifying message, because everybody's competing to get the ears. Right?
Yeah, I mean that's to me too. It just, here's my thing with the consumer. All right, I'm not gonna shit on everybody, but it just seems like there's a bunch of us. I'm not us. Now, I'm not including myself, but they just say I can get my stuff every day. I'm cool. I don't give a shit about what's going on. I know I can get my stuff anytime I want it, and those are the ones that scare me, because they're the ones that don't get it, because they think it's just going to be there every single day for them.
Well, it's not. It's not. And I said back in 2014, all they have to do is require a special license to import nicotine or to possess nicotine.
Yeah.
And they've done everything but that. But guess what? You think that's not coming? It is.
Yeah, I mean that's the go-to for every DIYer. It's just
Yep.
like I can get my stuff, and I've told them before. I said, well, what don't you think they've been paying attention to us? They have
Absolutely.
learned a lot since the beginning. They didn't know how our devices work. They didn't understand what we needed to make those things work. They didn't understand the cotton, the coil, the batteries. Now they understand all that stuff, and now they're paying attention to DIY. So
Well, and we air everything we do in public.
we do.
But like everything we plan to do, there's like no sneak attack. There's no sucker punch by us. It's all right there. And I would guarantee there's probably somebody that's being paid to be in this chat right now that belongs to a tobacco control group.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just no escaping it. They've got an army, a literal army, to continue their propaganda and their message. I mean, it's that they're funded well. They're
We're
funded
watching
well.
you, Dan. We're watching you, Dan.
No, my money's on Zach.
They've probably
I was gonna
tracked
say,
my
I'm
IP.
like, I'm looking at Zach on this one.
They've probably tracked my IP address and realized I have a garage full of
You're right, though.
DIY e-liquid right now too.
Well, the thing about like the DIYers that lately, even the last 6 months or so, that they're saying, like John's saying, like, oh, I can still always get my stuff. I can still always get
No,
my
you
stuff.
can't.
The
You
issue with
can't.
that is they can probably get everything but the nicotine.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's alternatives to nicotine, but all you got to do is kill one section of production and the whole line shuts down.
Yep.
That's in any business where you make something.
Yeah.
So, they cut off the flavors. They say, hey, you're regulated, and you think it's not coming. It is. It's coming, because that's us. That's going to create us to have to chase the tail of the dragon some more.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the thing. They could either just eliminate it altogether and make everyone go get a license, and then make the fee so unaffordable that only bigger corporations are going to be able to make that. And it does. It kills the B&Bs. It kills the smaller guys that are doing it, and who's going to afford, if you have to pay $5,000 a year for a nicotine license. I mean, how many DIYers are going to do that? And who's to say it's it's not going to be 10,000 next year? They'll just keep raising it to the point where who's going to afford it?
and I think the fear that a lot of the industry uses, not to cut you off, but is the black market's going to take over and it's going to be unsafe. I think what's going to happen is it's not going to become unsafe. It's going to become so incredibly costly that people just go back to smoking because it's too risky and too much of a hassle. The cost, the risk, the hassle. Fuck it, I'm just going to go smoke.
Yeah.
Well, you have to think about how the industry started too a long time ago, when you had the people who were making the liquids, didn't have the license, didn't have anything else, and they were just on social media selling it and all that stuff. That's what they were doing at the very beginning. That's like what they were doing now is what they were doing before. Yeah. And at that time, people were starting to, out each other, like, oh, I'm doing this for cheaper. I'm doing this for cheaper. I'm doing this for cheaper. It's exactly the same scenario that we're looking at again. It's going to be people undercutting each other. People not knowing, how it's being made. It's going to have, whatever have you inside it. You don't even know.
Yeah.
And
that's when we get, Brian, that's when we get those pictures of those shady friggin' lab rooms, dude.
Yeah.
Hey, remember Dr. Cremies?
Yeah.
Man, he had good juice. And that was one of the best ones I ever had. But when you saw the conditions it was made under, you were like, ooh,
okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but you get like a 500 mil for like dirt cheap.
Yeah, the pubic hair has no extra charge in there.
The gnats just added. The gnats just added extra flavor. I mean, you need that gnat flavor. And
then you watch the industry and think of this from a tobacco control perspective. They're probably laughing because we're going to do ISO 6, ISO 7 labs, and we're putting on the I did it. I put on the Tyvek suit and the mask and the the hairnet and the whole 9 yards with HEPA filters, and we spent tons of money, and they never required us to meet those standards. And you remember AEMSA, AEMSA? They put out those standards, and and you look at some of, oh man, I'm just all these
And
thoughts
that's
keep
not
all these.
cheap. That's not
No,
cheap
it's
to
not.
go ISO 7. I mean, that it requires, you know, a new. It's a new mask every time you come in, a new hairnet every time you come in there, a new or whatever that thing is called. I forget what they call
5X
it.
suit,
Yeah, I mean, it's money, and that's not including the HEPA filters and all the
right?
ventilation that you
The
need to have.
certification every
The
year
cer-
that you got to
Yep.
get.
The storage.
The sticky mats, the clean storage. I mean,
Uh,
yeah, I mean, some of
it's not the 10,000 that used to. Remember, if you had 10 grand 9 years ago to start an e-liquid company, you were successful. You know, you can
yeah,
keep going. That 10 grand is out the window now. I mean, you could probably still
absolutely.
do it, but
You know, and now we have. I mean, you look at the market. There's a conglomeration of routine players that are kind of pooling together, and you have a whole bunch of PMTAs that are getting accepted, but that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that they're approved.
right.
And it's just a big money and time consuming stall tactic, because at the end of the day, are we going to win this? Chasing the tail of the dragon? No, we're
No,
not.
we
We're going to
lose.
exhaust our resources and time and money, and it's going to be more of the same. I mean, are you guys aware that who FCTC wanted to employ a tobacco 25?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Tim,
I don't know about that, but I know that there were a couple representatives or senators or council heads that had made the argument that technically someone's brain isn't fully developed until you're 25 years old, and for that particular reason, they felt that people under 25 shouldn't have a luxury to access tobacco and nicotine related products. Just because they're underdeveloped yet, they're not making the wisest. They're not responsible or mature enough yet to make the right decision. Now,
Yeah.
will we see that type of legislation? I don't know.
No, it's not necessary now because they've already won.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
And this was a specific county, actually, right, Tim? It
Yeah,
just-
it was a little bit more demographically specific. It wasn't broad based like a federal thing. They kind of quit at the 21 plus, and they
They wanted to go far and beyond the federal.
Well,
law.
I didn't even know about that. I mean, I thought that was I'm like, but so it's all very contradictory information because this is the battle that they picked, and then they want to use that age range to quantify that, but yet you're putting driver's licenses into the hands of kids that are 16 years old. You've got legislators calling for teenagers to be able to vote. I mean, there's always and if you're legally an adult, they can send you overseas to fight for your country, but you can't have a
Right.
beer, and
Right.
so it's all very convoluted. And if you're just going to put that out there and say at 25 years old your brain's not fully developed, therefore you can't make the most conscientious decisions, well then just make that the bar, and then anything that was below that was 18, 16 before, then no driver's licenses till you're 25, no beer
Right.
until you're
Right.
25.
But no, come on, man. It's obviously a political ploy. I mean,
Of course.
we all see that as clear as day. I mean, it's if there's one thing you learn as a vaping advocate, it's how screwed up our system is, how really corrupt it is, how these people pretend to be doing things for the public health, and we know that it really isn't any of that. It's for power and it's for money,
Of course.
plain and simple.
Very good. That's good, Chris. That one made me laugh right
Yeah,
there.
well, I made a similar point like
Right.
that on Twitter one day. I said, they're gonna say that that as adults, because across the board here, we've got everybody that's even older than that threshold that they would even like to mention. But ultimately, what I'm saying is that they're saying that they're trying to pound their chest and take away something that as adults we've made an informed decision about to engage in, as well as use it as a way to get away from something that's worse. But they want to take that away because of all
Right.
these other mitigating factors, whether it's the kids and labels and flavors and all this other yah. But you go back to a subject like Chris just brought up, and then they say that, oh, okay, well, they're wise and educated enough to make a significantly large decision about something like that. And I don't want to get into social issues on the show. I'm just saying it just is hypocritical at best.
Yeah. Morgan,
Absolutely.
You have a question, Morgan?
Yeah, so kind of coming as a criminal justice student and kind of thinking about the fact of, okay, well, if this were something that, became an actual reality, how would it even be enforced? I mean, yeah, people would end up going to the black market again, but I mean, do you think they would have a really solid plan on how to, regulate everything and kind of control who's doing what? Or do you think it would be one of those situations where people would just out each other and say, oh, he's got
Yeah.
whatever, and then
My answer is yes and yes. So, would they enforce it? No, they wouldn't have to. I mean, let's look at, and I'm not trying to be political here, but how much did they have to enforce mask mandates? They really didn't. They just had to threaten people with, you can't come in, or
Right.
you can't travel, or, the same applies to any authoritative rule of law. And we see a lot of this stuff coming from public health, who are a bureaucracy who technically and constitutionally are not allowed to write laws, but they are able to enforce them. So all you have to do is propose it and the people will comply. It's really quite shocking to see how many people just go along. Where's the rebel in all of us? Judas Priest, man.
Yeah.
Look at Brian. Brian likes that when I use those old terms. Judas Priest, man. He gets a big old grin on his face.
All I do is think of
I
the
laugh.
Screaming for Vengeance album every time you say that.
Yeah. I had a buddy who was a big Judas Priest fan, and when he found out Rob Halford was a homosexual, it just crushed him. I laughed. It didn't bother me. I was like, I still love Judas Priest.
He's the man. I'll after the show, I'll share a story with you.
All right.
Not a personal story. It's about a video I watched. Anyhow, not that kind of video either.
No
Just wanted to clarify. Just wanted to clarify.
Hey, nobody went there except you, Swifty.
Exactly.
we know
I kind of
about it.
painted myself into a corner on that one. I'm like, no, you just said it. Now you got to walk that one back. So, yeah, and I kind of lost my train of thought on that one. But yeah, I mean, I just think we're at a point right now where I feel like we're kind of like Kevin said, we're chasing the tail. I do think that for lack of a better parallel, I mean, I do feel like people need a mission in this, but I think we've kind of reached a point in the vaping community where it's kind of starting to fall to a level of self-preservation. I think people in some ways have kind of lost sight of the fact that, yes, a bit of it is about yourself, but, you also have to think about the greater majority here too, and that if you lose it, I lose it too. So I mean, you have to remember that we all kind of have to fight this battle together. So that's why I'm interested about what Kevin brought up on the show tonight. I didn't know that, and clearly we have to find a different way to advocate.
You have to get your message to a voice that people are listening to, and it's unfortunate that today it's Hollywood, sports figures, and media.
Okay.
Because
But
the rest of the voices really just don't garner much airtime.
So what had you read any information on? Now I've lost the Latin term that the amici curiae, I think is what it was called. So
I don't speak Latin. I'm sorry. What does that mean?
Okay, so it's called an amici curiae brief.
I'm lying to you. I knew what it meant because
Oh, okay.
it's Latin.
And so are well then I know you're highly familiar with the moose juice.
Stop laughing, Brian.
Well, I fail.
I'm laughing from the chat here. I don't know what they're
Well, that's
talking
what I'm
about.
laughing at too. But then looking at Brian,
Brian's
it's
having
not
way too much
helping me.
fun in chat.
I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah,
you,
I am.
So.
No, obviously, we're trying to get the lending ear of politicians in this fight, and that seems to be one of the more tougher things to do. There have been some outspoken politicians, Rand Paul being one of them, who was sort of like one of the loud voices when they were having sort of the congressional hearings on the vape bans and flavor bans and things like that, and he was real quick to speak up. But he was also at the forefront of the amici curiae. So for those who didn't watch the show last week, there's a case now in front of the Supreme Court, which was a case that was brought up by several people, but Moose Juice tends to be on the front end of that, where they're arguing that the deeming rule is not justified simply because a non-elected FDA representative it wasn't nominated by or elected by Congress was allowed to essentially publish the deeming rule, which is what we know is the PMTA and the fact that we can't advocate for vaping as a safer alternative to smoking from a business perspective, or we can't promote it. We can't put things on a wall that legitimately say it's better for you.
Yeah.
What's that, John?
No, go ahead. No.
Okay. So at any rate, again, for the people watching the show, an amici curiae, as I learned it or I read up and understood it, is that when you have a non-involved party, a party who doesn't stand to lose or gain anything from the case, they can file what's called an amici curiae brief, which basically provides information to the courts to try to sway the decision one way or the other. And there were three politicians that jumped in on that one. Rand Paul was one of them, and forgive me, I can't remember the other two names. But would that be something we could look at as being some kind of a ray of hope? Because the two things that are on the line with the Moose Juice case is that the the Food and Drug Administration abused their ability to actually legally or rightfully publish the deeming rule, so it would make it illegitimate. And the other one would be a First Amendment violation in stating that we could tell customers at our vape shops that this is better for you, this is safer for you, and they're arguing in favor of the vaping industry on both cases.
Right. Well, I'm going to go backwards on this one. So, first off, the First Amendment would be destroyed as a complaint because there is precedent in the courts already that say public health or the FDA can override the First Amendment when it comes to that type of a public health situation. Second, correct, you are on track with the bureaucracy creating a rule, an unelected official signing into law regulation that is unconstitutional, and as far as I know, it's illegal, and that should probably be expected to be overturned, although it's a difficult and long course through the courts of appeal, which is where it is at now. Third, the case that you're speaking of was actually launched by THR for Life and myself, and the parties that you see titled are for some reason out of order. So we are part of that case. We have been involved with it since the onset, and I'm hoping that it does get to the Supreme Court. Will they hear it? I don't know. Is it important enough for them to hear? Probably not, with the influence of the media and the general public perspective of vaping, with the children being the target of concern. If it does succeed, I would expect that they say, yeah, we screwed up and we'll just go ahead and have a vote on it in the House or the Senate, and they'll redo it. So although it puts them in check, it does only temporarily stall it and reset it.
Yeah,
so,
because
that's the thing about that is that back in 2015, well 2016 when the regs actually came out, but before that, with the lawsuit that you were talking about with Enjoy, when they were trying to get this stuff shipped in, they couldn't say that it was safer because they're not like a medical like medical people. Like that's what it came down to. So they had to label it as a tobacco product to get it through there. So then fast forward to 2015-ish, 2014, around that area, before everything, came out on 8/8, in there it states that we can't say that it's healthier for you or, than smoking as a business perspective, because we're not that licensed area. And this lawsuit kind of comes in with that, because that freedom of speech with that too, I think they're going to kind of go back and forth a little bit with that,
Well, yeah, what it boils down to, Brian, is we didn't pay our fees to the FDA to be able to say that. Okay. And that's the disgusting truth of it all. You want to know another disgusting truth? My bladder is so full, I'm sinking down in my chair as we speak. So I'm going to have to take a break real soon here, but I will be back.
So we can do the news. We can do the news in that break.
Yeah.
You want to do the news now? Because my bladder says go for it.
Yeah,
we're hour and 20.
Yeah, we'll jump into the news real quick here with Tim. As they
Sorry,
say, go drain the main vein.
Biology cannot be stopped.
No. At our age, we should not be holding it in.
Yeah, or you could end up depending on something else. I'll be right back, you guys.
All right, sounds good. Hold on here.
Woo!
I'm surprised that hasn't got banned yet.
No, I was really worried about that StreamYard intro music that they cleverly, but I guess somebody that one's not copied.
That is owned by StreamYard, yeah.
Right, so we're allowed to use it. All right, so kids, a little time for a little news. Now, a couple of these were a little lengthy, but I'm kind of deeming tonight Hate Altria and Juul night. So anybody who has any ire or any angst or just, is mad at the world about Juul, they got a lot of stuff going on right now. So they're kind of taking their punches. So I'm going to steer clear of some negative vaping stuff for the most part, and we're going to stick to seeing the tobacco companies kind of take their lumps, right? Because they're not in the clear yet here either. So I'm going to share my screen for the visual purposes of non-scrolling pages.
Tim, did you tap the papers?
Did I who? I did tap the papers. Tom, you weren't paying attention. I did that. I did that almost immediately after my Ric Flair. Woo! So, all right. So the first one that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, I know where you got that at.
Yeah, I don't know. Some weirdo in my DMs was sending me stuff, and between this and all the cat memes, I picked this as the subject to talk about. So. So Altria, as we all know, is an investing partner with Juul. They're seeing a big gut punch on their stock shares falling. Now, there's a reason behind all of this, and we're going to talk that. So I think that there's a general consensus that a lot of us here in the vaping community are not too happy with Juul for multiple reasons. One of them being is that they were basically allowed themselves to be invested in by big tobacco, and it's the rhetoric that you hear online quite a bit and all the time is that we are like we're big tobacco, like all the vapors in the world somehow are attached to a Juul, and and that's the only thing we know how to vape. So the ants and a lot of those other people like to quantify us as big tobacco, which we're not. We're not even associated to that in any way, shape, or form. So some news of some potentially new tobacco regulation had come out from the Biden administration, which caused some investors to get a little shaky and sell off a bunch of their stock. So it resulted in a big plunge in stock shares in Altria, who was formerly Philip Morris, right? So Altria is an investor with Juul, as well as being a cigarette distributor. So this is, obviously none of us are fans of cigarettes, but it's just they have their hand in the pot. So the news that triggered this is that the Biden administration is now seriously considering mandating that cigarette makers reduce the level of nicotine in their products to the point that they would no longer be addictive. No, and if he did, we might stand a chance there, Zach, but he doesn't. He's going to follow the science, Zach, right? So that said, so I guess someone was in his ear, or part of his administration believes that if you can reduce the amount of nicotine in cigarettes, that somehow people will not find it as nearly addictive, and that they'll smoke less. And one important point that was brought out in this article, and I would say this is the only thing that I would say for me that mattered, because I really don't care about the nicotine level in cigarettes. But that they stated that, and I think it's even in bold print if I could find it. Well, it's irrelevant. I yanked it out of the article. Is that nicotine doesn't directly cause disease. This is said in the article. This was published by CNN, right? So they're your mainstream media, and the author of this article clearly said or acknowledges that nicotine doesn't directly cause disease, although the ants and the propagandists would want you to believe differently, that it causes cancer. But we do know that nicotine is one of the addictive components in cigarettes. I don't think that anyone would generally argue that point. It's the level of addictiveness that's relevant here, right? So some would say nicotine and caffeine are literally almost the same thing. People like the Red Bulls. So go vape a Juul, right? It's the same thing. But I just thought that was an interesting point that if you want to use that in an argument, hey, here's CNN even acknowledging that nicotine doesn't directly cause disease. It's the other 4,000 plus chemicals in cigarettes that are really the problem. So Altria's stock, upon introduction of the news, was down more than 6% for the day, and then I didn't even know you could do this. But apparently they dropped another 2% in what's considered after hours trading, and I don't know what. I'm not a day trader. I don't really get into that. I didn't know that you could trade on the market after hours. So they lost a total of 8% overall in their stock share value. And to caveat or to coattail on this is that along with the Biden administration considering having cigarette makers reduce nicotine in their cigarettes, they're also weighing the decision to ban menthol cigarettes as well. But that one's kind of a commonality in a lot of the language that you see in articles online and municipalities, is that they're going for the flavors and then they're lumping in flavored smokeless tobacco as well as the menthol cigarettes, because their argument there is that menthol cigarettes were adversely targeted to the minority communities, and therefore that's why everyone's addicted to menthol cigarettes. So just ban them, and that will do the trick. Well, I don't know. I think you're gonna see the big tobacco probably step in on this one and try to plug the dam, because that's all revenue for them. If people aren't buying their products, then they're not making any money. Hence, the master settlement agreement is somewhat ineffective. So the FDA is also during this time expected to respond to a citizen petition on April 29th, indicating if they plan on pursuing a ban on menthol cigarettes. I don't know anything about this petition, and I don't know if this petition was for or against the banning of menthol cigarettes. I haven't seen any online petitions telling people to run over and sign a petition because they're about ready to lose their menthol cigarettes. So I'm going to guess this is a citizen petition to ban them. That's my assumption. I'll try to get more information on that later. However, it did state that even with the Biden administration looking into this mandate, as well as the ban on menthol cigarettes, that it could potentially take years before any legislation goes into effect. That doesn't mean that you bought yourself some time. It just means that, like Kevin said, you don't think it's coming. It's coming, right? It just takes time, right? The wheels of government turn rather slow. So I was trying to quantify it before. Altria, who also handles Marlboro, Virginia Slims, Parliament, to name a few, they are urging the government to consider this sounds like the vaping community. They're urging the government to consider real-world impact, which would include loss of jobs and the rise in the illicit market. So now Altria sounds like we are like, oh, don't ban vaping. You're going to close down businesses and people are going to lose their jobs. Everything from wholesalers, distributors, e-liquid makers, the whole kit and caboodle. They're all going to lose jobs. Shops are going to shut down. and then the black market's going to get far and wide, and then it's going to become unsafe. So now the cigarette companies are screaming the same argument. So I don't know. I took a little gratification in this and seeing big tobacco kind of take some lumps in this process as well. The FDA will expound on existing law that raised the legal smoking age to 21 and ban the sale of flavored cartridges in Juul. So we all remember that when Juul had to start pulling, but they arbitrarily pulled their flavors, but they were going to get hit with pulling a lot of their flavors, including, were they able to keep the menthol, but they had to pull the mint? Am I right or wrong on that one?
Right. Yep.
Okay. So they consider mint a flavor, although in e-liquid, tobacco flavor is a flavor. So that's a little funny to me. And
It's
this
all
past,
flavor.
exactly. And this past September, Juul announced that it would. Not only are they taking a gut punch on their stock shares, but let's go down to it. Let me just really quickly read it because it was the last couple little paragraphs. So it talked about when Juul pulled their flavors. So and the FDA in December of 2019 prohibited the sale of tobacco products to anyone under the age of 21. A month later, the agency introduced a policy banning the sale of most flavored cartridges for e-cigarettes. So those are pre-filled pods is what we're talking about. Yeah. E-cigarette giant.
Well, they banned the cartridges, but you could still get disposables that were flavored.
Well, right, and the puff bars are still floating around. I'm only really addressing Juul and what they were, because the politicians and Congress and like all of the legislation that when they start talking about vaping, I feel like they completely disclude the open system conversation. They don't really talk about other companies that are or offer similar products to Juul, whether they be open or closed systems. Juul was the main target. They think everybody that vapes is all about Juul, when really, it's not. I mean, there are some, but that was mostly the kids. The kids were the ones going for the Juuls. So e-cigarette giant Juul voluntarily stopped selling fruity flavors in late 2018 in response to concerns over youth vaping. But the company has struggled since. In September, it said it would cut jobs and consider pulling out of some international markets. So just for everyone's education, Altria spent $12.8 billion for
Billion.
$30 billion. That's a lot of zeros.
Billion.
Exactly. For a 35% stake
You gotta
in
say
Juul.
it. B for billion.
Think about the gravity of that, you guys. That's as much as the vape industry makes.
Yes. And that's only to get a 35% stake. And that's just because Juul was really booming. I mean, they kind of really had a stranglehold on that sort of arbitrary vape market. I mean, people walking into gas stations or going into their Quick Trips or going to the grocery stores or their CVS's and Walgreens. I mean, that was pretty much the option that was sitting there in front of them. They had no clue about Falcon tanks and Aegis Solos and stuff like that. Or the fact that vaping has effectively been around for about 10 years,
Right.
So,
Swifty.
Yes.
Got to interject here.
Yes, sir.
The U.S. supplies WHO FCTC with $1 billion per year. $1 billion.
$1 billion.
That's and then Altria blows 12.8, almost 13 billion.
Philip Morris also adds in $1 billion.
Really, they do too.
Philip Morris.
There's two right there.
So you got tobacco, and if you dig deeper, look at what pharmaceuticals put in. They put in about $5 billion a year.
Good gravy.
So yeah, I mean, who are we up against? I mean, not to interrupt you, but this is where the funding is coming from. It's coming from tobacco and mainly pharmaceutical companies to destroy us because we're destroying their profit margin.
Right. Well, and what makes this article even more that interesting in that sense is that the tobacco companies are funding the WHO FCTC to try to shut us down, but yet in the same breath, they're also taking punches on the front side of that too. Do you know what I mean? So the thing that they're trying to preserve, they're being attacked on as well. Now, again, this isn't something that's going to happen tomorrow or the stroke of an executive order pen. I'm just saying it just seems sort of ironic that they're paying to save themselves, but at the same time, they're also being attacked. Now, I don't know if this is placation. Do you know what I'm saying?
It's devil's advocate.
Yeah.
It really is.
Exactly. But look at the result though of the struggling company though. So they took a $4.5 billion write down a year later. So in 2019, they took a $4.5 billion write down. That's how much profit they had lost. And it also announced another $4.1 billion write down on the investment in January 2020.
But do they care?
I don't think they do because they got
because they got a tax write-off. They're a corporation.
Yep. Yeah. I mean it's just when you really start to peel back the layers of the onion on this one, it reveals a lot. You know what I mean? It's what we're up against is not surface level stuff. It's just we might be angry at the councilman down the street because he wants a flavor ban in your town, but it's all a distraction from the bigger picture.
And you know what? You're nailing it right there, because the city councilman down the street only knows what facts, and I say that loosely, facts have been presented to him. Yeah. And guess who's showing up before we do? Tobacco control. Yeah. Who's funded by who? Who?
Right. Yeah, well, and what's funny is with Juul, for me being here in California, which I thought was really odd, is they are a San Francisco-based company, but they actually did absolutely nothing to stop the ban in San Francisco. They did nothing. They didn't help promote, try to stop it. They didn't try to get the word out that this is safer, this is better. They did absolutely nothing, and that ban in San Francisco went right through.
You know why? Because they didn't have to.
They didn't have to.
They didn't have to waste the time and the money on one area because they had.
But it's your home base. You know what I'm saying? It's where
they
your
don't give a shit.
I know they don't care.
They don't give a shit. The dollar is what's dictating where they run.
Yeah.
You know, they can C-store that crap all day long and make a 50% margin on it. I mean, this is just. For somebody that is seeing the big picture, and I hope you guys are looking at it differently tonight, man, we're getting ass raped with no Vaseline here, big time.
I was gonna say that. I held back, Kevin. I held back. It's ribbed. It's ribbed too.
And not only that, they're telling us, "I hope you liked it." You know.
Yeah.
And then they're offering us a freaking shrimp cocktail afterwards.
It's ribbed for our pleasure.
Not even steak and salad. It's a shrimp cocktail.
They didn't even take us out for dinner first.
Right. No movie, nothing, no foreplay. Just ram it in and tear it out.
Not even the common decency of a reach around.
And this makes Zachary Polson and Brian's laughter about the fleshlight earlier pale in comparison.
Yeah.
But I mean, the reason why we do this on the show and we talk about these topics is because we want that information out to people to understand. I mean, because a lot of times, I'm not saying people live in bubbles and safe spaces about vaping and all that stuff, but I'm just saying it opens your eyes to the mechanisms of government and how they work. And yes, every 4 years we get up there and we vote to put somebody in office for us. But, you can see when you take something like this that means so much to us, and it becomes extremely difficult to put the right person to stand up for us when you realize that there's all these other inner workings that are going on and all these other people that have a dog in the fight, and they're trying to save something. They have way more money than we'll ever have.
Right.
And there's all these shenanigans that go on. And these are the things that need to be exposed so that you can see exactly how it is that we get the short end of the stick on this one. So, we have to continue to fight. I mean, if you care about this, you have to continue to fight. But Kevin has enlightened us with a different way of looking at this, and absolutely a different way to go about fighting this war. So that's that. I'm going to move on from that one. I just kind of wanted to talk about that because my takeaway on that one was that I just think that if you reduce the nicotine level in cigarettes, it's not going to do. I mean, because people are already at what 24 in a cigarette, and then you're going to mandate it and say you're going to make it 12 or 10. That it's not. It's only going to help the cigarette companies because that person is going to probably smoke twice as many cigarettes because they're until they can maybe wean themselves off of it. My other thought though. My other thought on this was just a ad hominem look at it, and that if cigarettes then become dissatisfying for people, because one of the articles we talked about last week is about how e-cigarettes became effective for people when they matched the same nicotine levels as cigarettes. When someone, and I'm talking about new people, just like leaving cigarette smoking and going to vaping, right? When they have less nicotine and it doesn't match that nicotine requirement, e-cigarettes become less effective for those people. So now you're saying you're going to make cigarettes less effective for the smoker. Maybe the smoker says, well, hell, I can go over here to the vape shop and pick me up some 36 milligram nic salts, and I can go ahead and I can quantify myself that way. Does that mean positivity for the vape community? Sure, because maybe we save another person's life. But don't think for a minute that they're not going to recognize that and go, okay, now you can't have e-liquid on the street or over the counter for any more than 6 or 8, right? So I mean, they'll find a way to counterbalance that. So I just said, well, maybe it means a little bit of a win for the e-cigarette community if we can get people away from cigarettes because they have less nicotine in them. But that's here and there. We don't know what the result is going to be. That was my thought alone.
Yeah, it's not like you just bring great hair to the show. You have a great mind too.
I'm trying. I mean, they gave me this job. I'm running with it for all that it's worth. So, and thank you, Brian, for that one on the first article because that came from B right there. He does scrape some nice articles off.
Scrapes.
Well. I'll be honest with you, Kevin. We have a guy who sometimes tunes into the show quite often, Bill Tarling.
Oh, yeah, I know him.
I
know him from long time ago.
And he has a great Facebook page, Vape Distortion, which he shares plenty of viable and reasonable information, both for and against vaping, that comes from all different angles. And it's great stuff. Well, just so everyone knows, he's decided to take a massive step back from that page here recently because he feels as though he's a little bit like Kevin. He's getting up there and he's pushing information out and he's trying to talk to people and get people into this fight, and really no one has a whole lot to say he feels like people have just given up. So why is he working so hard?
Bill Tarling is another example of he's not a celebrity, he's a truth sayer, and he just doesn't get the audience. He doesn't get the audience. The guy is brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And he's correct on everything. He's extremely accurate. I can't compliment him enough. That's
what I was getting to my point there, Kevin. Do you think we're getting diluted? Is the message getting diluted?
Absolutely it is. I mean, you've got everybody competing for the small amount of money, and I'm talking millions, but that's small potatoes. If we don't figure out, and I get his frustration, I'm right. I mean, he's 3 years behind me. I met this frustration wall 3 years ago, and I said, fuck it.
Right.
Nobody's listening. I'm not a fucking good looking guy. I don't have hair like you got, and no, I can't get up there and sing and get people's attention. So
Tim can't sing.
I got a guitar behind me, but I can't play the son of a bitch. I might be able to play some Collective Soul on it, but that's about it. I
was gonna say Stairway to Heaven, but
yeah, Wish Upon a Star, right? But that's what I'm saying is, if you don't have like some kind of gimmick to garner the attention of your audience, your message isn't going to be heard.
Yeah.
And nobody finds any kind of sensationalism in the truth these days. You know, everybody loves a lie.
Yeah.
Everybody loves a lie.
You're
They
getting
like
called out now, Kevin. You shouldn't have
What?
brought up the guitar. You shouldn't.
said,
You
"Get
shouldn't
your
have
old
brought
ass up."
Hey, a couple more beers and I'll actually pull it out and try to play something and sing, but you guys don't want that on
We'll
live
get smoke
TV
on
here.
smoke on the water for the next hour and a half. Right on.
As
All right,
far
so
as YouTube is concerned, as long as you don't hit the right key and the right note and
just
the right tone, you're okay.
yeah, just
No,
like drop
there
it.
will be no infringement here because I will hit none of the right things. I tell you.
Yeah, as I say, if Kevin plays horrible, it's not going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
you jump
So
into the
moving along. So another gut punch to Juul. I don't know. I just felt like hating on them tonight, so I went ahead with 2 big articles about Juul. This one Brian did not give to me. I found this one on my own. So
Yeah, I don't do 2 Juul articles in a row.
Yeah, exactly. I don't need you in my DMs that much. It's kind of creepy. So Juul can't. The title was Juul cannot duck racketeering claims in sprawling e-cigarette suit. So Juul and its investor company Altria took a big gut punch the other day as a federal judge advanced racketeering claims on a new theory that Juul founders and directors ran the company like an illegal enterprise. So there was a lot of shady stuff going on underneath the covers, and Juul played a lot of cover-ups. Apparently there was an earlier ruling that was levied against them, but the racketeering charges or the racketeering, the alleged racketeering, was kind of removed from that. So they were basically they were able to sort of quantify the fact that they intentionally enticed teens to buy e-cigarettes through promotional campaigns, but then they had dismissed the racketeering allegations. So in this latest ruling, U.S. District Judge William Orrick III, which shouldn't this guy be making vacuums? But I mean, that's just me. Maybe I watch way too many infomercials at 2 in the morning.
That's how he got into the courts to begin with.
Exactly. Yeah, he was a vacuum billionaire, and now he's a federal judge.
His whole family sucks.
It's sucking.
Wait, if no one caught that one, y'all.
I don't have I don't have my soundboard hooked up tonight.
That was a
good
joke. That was a great joke. That was the best dad joke I've ever heard.
Judas Priest.
That one.
There's Johnny Cash.
Yeah, Johnny Cash. There you go, Juul. That's what we think. So in the latest ruling, U.S. District Judge William Orrick III found that this is a class action lawsuit, so it's been brought forward by several people, had sufficiently amended its lawsuit to show how the scheme worked and who was involved. So the allegations were leveled against Altria and Juul board members Nicholas Pritzker, Ho Young Huh, legit, his last name is spelled H-U-H.
Huh?
Ho Young Huh. And Riaz Villani. I guess he sounds Italian. I don't know. So they were
probably mafia.
It could be. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me at this point. So the new claim. Go ahead, John. You were saying?
I said easy. There's a Sicilian on the panel.
Okay, well,
I think Brian's mafia.
Yeah, no neckties. No neckties tonight, John.
Those Italians always causing ruckus. I tell you.
Keep that blade in your top drawer, there, brother. The new complaint has been amended to suggest that Juul board members and co-founders, and here's some more names for you, Adam Bowen and James Monsees, used the company as a vehicle to violate the Federal Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, otherwise known as RICO. You hear that quite often.
Hey, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Let's put this in perspective.
Gotcha.
Even with as bad as Juul was for the vaping industry,
yeah,
did they put out a product that was worse than cigarettes?
No.
Ooh. They did not.
Right?
Just bad marketing.
Wait, let's yeah. Well, no, he's right. He's right in the sense that, while I might argue the 60 milliliter, or if it was 59 or whatever, 59 milligrams per milliliter of nicotine salts, I would argue that the average person doesn't need that.
But did you die?
I didn't, and I have vaped 50 milligram.
But you know what I'm saying here? I mean, let's put it in perspective. Did you die? Nobody
Kevin,
died.
No,
You gotta say it
and
like the guy from the movie. You have to say it like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Every
Did
time
you
I
die? You die?
every time I hear someone say that, I always think of that movie. Did
Yeah.
you die?
The Hangover. I mean,
Yeah.
nobody died.
Yeah.
Nobody died.
yeah, zero deaths to vaping.
Nobody fucking died.
So effectively only Monsees, Brown, Pritzker, Villani, and Altria can be held liable under the RICO theory. The class action lawsuit consists of consumers, school districts, and local governments claims that through their control of Juul Labs, the group worked together to deceptively target young people and create a new generation of nicotine addicts. I don't. It was a fad. Who's that guy? It was I think it was a fad gone wrong. I don't think that Juul actually kind of really sucked in the youth per se. I think kids caught on to it and they did what all kids do, like we did when we were young. You know, whatever was scandalous or taboo or the forbidden fruit. You know, we went after it because it was like, oh, I got to try that. You know,
Yeah.
and
I mean, when my mom left her heroin out, I stole it every time.
it was the needles you couldn't get to; those were in the safe.
I couldn't hide. I couldn't find.
They also levied that they omitted information about the potency and nicotine content of Juul e-cigarettes, and they also claimed that they deceived government regulators to keep selling to children. So I don't know much about what they deceived regulators on. I mean, you would think they weren't PMTA regulated, but I guess at that time they didn't really have to put all the information and all their cards on the table. So they basically just kind of made them think that they were okay. The class action lawsuit also alleges a cover-up scheme to evade public scrutiny over Juul's role in promoting youth vaping. And I think that cover-up came in the form of several things. I don't remember if people remember this, but there was a big argument about whether or not Juul went into the school systems to kind of they had some of their representatives show up at schools.
Yep,
So these
yep.
parents levied this, or at least said that this is what happened, or some students came home and said Juul people were in the room. But under that guise, they weren't there to technically say, hey, here's our products, vape on Juul. They supposedly were there to tell kids that vaping and smoking is bad. But why would someone like that show up at the school to talk about something like that? So there was a lot of controversy around that. I also know that they contributed a big chunk of money. I think wasn't it in maybe 2018 or 2016 that kind of basically stymied or stifled the flavor ban that they were gunning for at that time. Because all this flavor ban stuff was not just something that happened here in the last couple of years. I mean, they wanted this years ago around the time the deeming rule came out, but they backed off of it because someone told them, well, you know, you're going to impact businesses and people and their money and their livelihoods. And so, and this was the Obama administration at that time. However, they did go forward with the deeming rule. So I think that's the cover up that they're discussing, that they tried to make themselves look like saints when they were really like the wolves in sheep's clothing. So, I mean, that's the way I would kind of look at that. So that's the cover up to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, I mean, think about it. Juul took what? 25% of the market worldwide.
Yes.
They still weren't as bad as cigarettes. I'm not trying to defend Juul. I think
Right.
they're bastards, but
Yeah.
when you put it in comparison to the tobacco companies, did they really do any damage?
No.
They exposed teens to vaping probably more that would have never tried cigarettes than usual. But at the end of the day, and the statistic data that you get from it, it probably stopped a lot of kids from actually smoking.
That's true too.
And is it any worse than going back to your piece on the addiction, the intensity of addiction? Did they really get addicted to something worse than driving the car their parents bought them through a Starbucks every morning before school?
No, and to that point, Kevin, though, I mean, and I agree with it. I mean, you know, like if you know you have kids in your household and you happen to walk into the room or they left and mom was cleaning the room and she happened to stumble across the kid's Juul, while a lot of us would immediately, be concerned by that because, technically it's illegal and kids shouldn't be vaping in the first place. But there are a lot of adults, who are vapors who said, well, if, I found out, or I caught, or even people that don't vape or smoke said that if they had found out that their kid was vaping, they'd be far more happier to know that their kid was vaping and not finding that pack of, Marlboro Reds in the top drawer, or, rolling their own or something like that. So, I mean, I do agree in that sense. I mean, we understand why there is regulation around that, because obviously for kids, vaping could be far more harmful just due to the fact that, it could impact brain development. I mean, there's not much proof in that.
There's no proof.
Yeah, because all those articles always start with could, might, may, probably.
Keywords.
Yeah. So, I mean, and
that research was actually done on rats.
That's true. Where
It is true. It's the absolute truth. It was done on rats, and they ratioed the age of the rat and introduced nicotine to its brain during its development years and equated that to human relation. And it's like, are you fucking insane? That is not even the same, because we're far more resilient creatures and we have a much longer lifespan and we have a completely different biological breakdown.
Sure.
So I don't know. You guys...
Didn't they use?
Yeah,
like
I
a
hate
human
Juul
dose of
because
nicotine,
Juul sucks. Juul sucks, but you know what? At the end of the day, did they do anything terrible to the public? No, not as terrible as big tobacco. Did they do anything worse than what pharmaceuticals do? No, because pharmaceuticals is now prescribing 12-year-olds amphetamines. I mean,
sure.
It's all about perspective, you guys. I mean, we're concentrating on Juul, and you know what? A lot of the ire comes from the industry that is frankly jealous that Juul had so much success on the market.
Right.
I mean, let's be honest. It's about money. Fuck Juul. We have our 12 milligram. And they're killing us because they're in every C-store that we can imagine, and that's only where we want to be. I mean, put it in perspective, you guys. It's sometimes the people that are downing the big companies are really just because they're jealous. I mean, I don't know how much more plainly to put it.
And I think that's a valid point. I think the way that I would look at it, or maybe some of the surface ire that I would have about Juul, is I feel like, to me personally, Juul sort of like accelerated the exposure of vaping to the general public. I mean, at least when you started the arguments about whether or not, kids were getting addicted to vaping or finding this, and then you look at some of the, the arms of that argument where it's like, oh my God, they got 50 milligrams of Nick salt in it and all this. I mean, that's all. That doesn't really mean that much. What I'm saying is I'm not saying we were underground. And although the vaping community and the vaping industry was rising rather quickly over the last decade, to the point, where it was becoming more popular, more mainstream, it was, we were getting our hands on far more advanced devices and stuff like that. But then Juul kind of showed up on the scene, and that just kind of made us visible. It was almost as if it was almost like we had camouflage on for a while, and then Juul showed up with the safety orange and looked like the sore thumb in the room. I mean, if that's a way to look at it.
What Juul did is they were able to focus on a certain group that everyone else was afraid of, and our government was afraid of, and that was that age group between 18 and 35. That group has money, and they realized what was going on. They made it popular because how many 21, 35-year-olds do you see that are in college are going to carry a mod around, are going to carry that big mod around, carry batteries, carry coils with them, carry juice with them? They don't want that. They wanted something small, simple, and easy, and they got it with Juul. And shit, I mean, they were a nothing company. Nobody knew anything about them. It was basically an upgraded version of the Blue. is basically what it was.
Correct. And CTFK did the most advertising for them. They did the most advertising for them.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't do Juul. Remember, don't do drugs.
Yeah.
What did you do? You went out and bought a dime bag of pot with your buddies on the weekend and got
Absolutely.
high.
Well, that was the question I had a while ago. Was the popularity of Juul wasn't because of Juul itself or the vaping industry itself. It was because of the local TV stations and radio stations and anti stuff that
they hyped
that
it,
all it was don't
use
use Juul, and then all the kids knew what to get versus not to get it.
So there's the conundrum with the media and their paid sponsors and who the bad guy is. And at the end of the day, like I said before, even the 50 milligram Juul pods were still not as bad as smoking.
And I'll play devil's advocate here because I see it. Juul ruined the vaping industry. Let's not forget that it still takes a vendor. It still takes a shop owner. It still takes a store to sell this device. It still takes an aunt and uncle to buy this fucking device. It still takes a parent to buy. All this blame. And okay, Juul, they did make mistakes. Yes, they did make mistakes, but you still had vendors selling. You still had uncles and aunts buying it for these kids. You still had, I can't say vape shops, but I'm sure vape shops, a couple of them in Canada got busted for selling for underage people. But you had websites selling it. You had parents giving their kids their credit cards to buy these products. I mean, when is the blame going to go towards these people? Why, the vendor,
because they don't want to police that element of it. The government doesn't want to be involved in the parenting the kids.
The laws are there, man. Because in the 80s, I remember, and I'm sure you do too, Tim. I remember going into a liquor store and seeing cardboard put on the glass because they got busted for selling to minors, and they would shut down their alcohol.
Absolutely.
When's the last time you seen a sting? I can't even remember the last time I seen those stings. And I want to say it was at least 12 years ago was the last time I saw the shady kid standing in front of me, and I knew it too because the kid was holding a 6-pack, and I'm looking at this kid going, this kid's freaking 18, maybe 18. Walked up there, handed him the 20, gave him his change, walked back outside. The 20 was marked. The guys came back in, shut him down.
Sure.
Shut him down.
Well, the days of having Jay and Silent Bob standing outside the store nowadays is very minimal. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. There needs to be some of that blame put on some other people as well. And the stores, the parents, the uncles and aunts, the guy that's like you said, I can't even think of the last time I actually saw someone standing in front of a liquor store. I mean, I know I live in Modesto. It might be a little different and other parts of the country, but I mean, it's just
no, you're right, but it's all about accountability, right? Because the parents don't want to be accountable for what took place or what happened because they're going to say, well, I can't keep my eyes on my kid the whole entire time, even if they are contributing or somehow facilitating the habits, whether it's putting money in their pocket or being like, oh, it's safer, okay, I'll buy it for you. I mean, they get duped into stuff all the time, but the moment it starts to come back on them, what do? They throw their hands up with a million different excuses, and they go, well, let's just let the government take care of it. And that's where and the accountability is going to be the blame game on the companies that somehow were attached to that situation, and we turn into these nanny states. So they just start banning and taking stuff away, thinking that's going to solve the problem. When the kids are getting shit illegally on Snapchat, and their buddies are going on Alibaba and buying 3,000 universal pods and then filling it with basically bathtub water, and who knows where they get it from. So I mean, the accountability will never be placed in the right place, which is the argument that we make. I wanted to address Mallory's comment too, and she's right, is that kids don't want the systems that we have. Although they're attacking them, the kids don't want the big two 18650 battery mod with the big old 4 mil tank on it, because it's not concealable, it's not clandestine enough. They want stuff that they're not going to get. They're going to get caught with that a lot faster, blowing this massive cloud, than they can take a little puff off of their little Juul device and blow it into their sleeve or hide in the bathroom at school and do that stuff. But they are getting. And Mallory, we did talk about that very early on in one of the shows. I think we're on episode 29, but we did an article about that where two particular school districts were polled and had many schools were polled, but only certain numbers came back, and they did find we had a picture up of all like the devices that were confiscated. Yeah. Ironically, though, Mallory, in that photo, and you might be talking about that same photo, is that there were the Surin or Surin, whatever, however you say it. There was plenty of those. There was some Juuls. There was some little thing. You know what dominated that picture? Was not the vaping devices, but the THC devices is what dominated that picture. Yeah. That's what they were busting the kids with, is the THC liquid oil vapes, and then that was at the forefront and the spearhead of the Valley cases that happened, and really what kind of put the magnifying glass on us even more. Yep. Because everybody conflated the truth and just used the word vaping. They like that verb way too much. And that made us look like we were the big bad evil monster that was, addicting the kids and killing people and putting people in the hospital and shutting down their lungs. When in fact, no, that wasn't the case at all. But now here we are. So anyway, to wrap that one up, that article, they just still blame Juul even more for apparently enlisting what they called the cool crowd and using social media influencers. And then they also had a partnership with Vice Magazine, which apparently is the #1 youth magazine on the racks today. And so because their products were in there, that was that. So I'm tapping the papers. That was a wonderful conversation about the news. And we'll do our advocacy articles next week. So because we had an advocate on the show tonight. Yeah, so we got our fair. We got our stabs at advocacy all night long.
Morgan's been really, really quiet.
Yeah, Morgan, say something. Make sure you're alive. And Tom too.
On the whole, kind of, younger kids getting a hold of vaping. I mean, when I did work for Quick Trip for about, a year and a half, even after they had, gotten rid of the, like fruit flavors, and stuff like that, there were still a lot of people, and back when, the age was, 18, to buy this stuff, I saw lots of people come in who were, my age that were, buying it. And like, I just kept thinking, this is probably going to really backfire on, the vaping community. And I kind of knew then that like this was going to be, a major problem. And then learning what was happening, later and later, I thought, yep, that's what did it. I mean, that's what really put things in the spotlight. And
and you're right on target there. The idea behind Salt Nicks was less is more. You could titrate the nicotine intake with less vapor, and that was a good principle, but it got abused, and what happened is it became a trend and a fad, and the media capitalized on it and made us the bad guys, because that's frankly exactly what they wanted to do, and it helped their propaganda. So
we were shut up. We couldn't say no. I mean, as a consumer, you could say something, but as an owner, you couldn't say those facts. You couldn't use those facts. We invented Salt Nicks for this reason.
Right.
Right. They were, their hands were tied. They couldn't fight.
And
the media would listen anyway.
Right. And we still got to back up, and we got to say, fuck Juul. They could have made dog shit flavor with 50 milligram and people still would have bought it.
Yeah.
Well, right.
I don't care if it tastes like dog shit. I want my Nick.
Right,
So-
because the underlying factor there is that I've still to this day don't fully believe that the kids were chasing the flavors. I think the flavors made it a little bit more
Of
appealing.
course.
But when you see the videos on YouTube of some kid with a styrofoam cup with friggin' 10 Juuls jammed in it, and he's giving you the tutorial on how to get so buzzed that you can't even complete your homework, that leads, you knew that, the kids weren't doing it for the flavors, they were doing it for the buzz. It was all
Yep.
about having a good time. I saw videos on YouTube, they're probably still up, where kids were giving tutorials to each other on like 10 different ways to vape a Juul so that you could get the greatest buzz. All right, John, I don't want to interrupt you because the poll was a good
No,
one
I'm just
too.
pulling it up so you could finish your. I was just getting.
Yeah,
it
no, that's why I said, I mean, every hot button topic that comes up, whether it's in the news or it's in the media or whether it's in your your social feeds and stuff like that, it's about sensationalism. You take something that's really tiny and you make it appear bigger than it has to be, and then the truth gets lost in all of that, because
Absolutely.
then they just start attacking and sensationalizing that one little thing that really was not as impactful as it really was intended to be. So, it's just kind of a shame. Anyway, move on to the poll. Oh, we lost the host just dropped from the show. Now we can talk about him.
Well, sucks to be him.
He probably
Yeah.
tried to comment.
No, well, you know what? The last time it was because he had both devices running, and there he goes. He's back.
Weird. It just went
So
up.
can we say
right
officially
up.
that John pulled a Kevin tonight?
That was
He
weird.
did.
Well, I'm actually betting that John just had his walker fell over. He just had to grab it. So
It just went right off. I was like, hello? And I'm like, quickly, I threw my mod to the ground. That's how important this show is to me. I just threw my mod on the ground. I was like, oh, what the hell? Boom, threw it down. Oh, man.
What's up, Boskino? Just wanted to say hi, buddy.
Everyone in chat, too, if you want to answer this question, we're kind of curious. What is your monthly vape budget? And this is just for e-liquid, coils, cotton, not mods, because that could get really crazy. Like Tim's got like, I think $1,000 mod a month purchase thing that he's got going on over there or something like that. But we just want to get your idea.
Notice the plus after that 100.
The plus 100 plus seems to be the winner right there. And that's what is that now? Let me think here. Depends on where you're at. That's probably 3 to 4 120s a month. It's about
Say that
right.
again.
It'd be
that's
about
roughly that. Yeah.
100 plus would be right at that 3 to 4 120 mils a month. Tim, are you vaping that much e-liquid a month?
No, you know what? I would say I'm more of a conscious shopper on the e-liquid side of stuff, because you can probably, well, prior to the vape mail ban and now all these little taxes and surcharges and all that stuff, you could probably get away. I could get maybe 600, 700 mil for probably less than $50 if I found a good coupon and the right person selling it. I think where I start to go over that echelon is when you start pulling in all the devices, all the RDAs, RTAs.
Yeah,
mods,
that's why I kept
those
it
things.
out, because then I would that poll would have been a lot larger numbers than there.
Yeah.
Yeah. 50 came in second with 15 votes. 70 was third with 9 votes. 30 was 3. 80 was 3. 60 was 1. 2 guys. Someone actually put can't say spouse is watching. So yeah, it was. I figured there's going to be at least 1 or 2. Somebody was going to put that there. I figured I had to add it. You know how it is when you're doing these polls. The ZampleBox community, I love them, but no matter how detailed I make the poll, there's always going to be something I missed, and they make sure I know. So
it's usually one of us that puts it in, though.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I think you can see the people who voted for it.
Yeah, you can see. Yeah, well, I mean,
Can you click on their names?
Yeah, I can click on Brian.
Oh, I wanted. Well, I meant the 2. Where I meant the 2.
Yeah,
the 2. The 2.
Oh yeah, let me see.
What was that Blair Witch stance that person
that
was
was
taking
Brian's
in your cover?
page.
The
It
very
just
top.
shows me-
No, that's from a different movie.
See, well,
it just
Kimberly.
it just shows one person. Yeah, I can't. I forgot
Dang,
what
Kimberly's got the bow on her butt, and he's watching what she's buying.
Yeah. I was surprised that it was over 100. well, too, the way I stated it too, now that with the new regulations, so I think that kind of spurred a lot of people's to start buying a little more these last few months too as well. So I know I did. I know I'm way over the 100. So just to do
Vape,
it,
vape. They said it'll be cheaper. They said.
Yeah,
It'll be cheaper.
right now in Minnesota, they are proposing we have a 98% tax on
Yeah.
e-liquid.
Crazy. That is
Yeah.
crazy.
They are proposing a 98% tax on batteries and mods as well.
Yeah, I heard it was like literally everything, like any kit, anything that's vaping related.
Now,
And
is
you know,
that
I feel
in-state purchase? Is that an in-state purchase, or are they
you know,
adding these
I
websites as well to that?
I should know this, but I don't. Like I said,
You know what'll
the
happen
burnout.
eventually they'll write a law that says that you're responsible for the taxes to any purchases made online. So
Right.
eventually
And
they'll write.
like right now, it's 98% tax if you import e-liquid on the entire volume of a bottle of e-liquid. But if it's manufactured in state, then it's only on the nicotine content.
Hmm.
So
That's correct.
they
Daniel.
took that as a win, and I said, "Are you kidding me?" But you know, sometimes you gotta kind of eat a little bit of crow and kind of make it work. But this one is talk about
That's a
kicking you in the
filler.
head when you're down. I mean, Judas Priest. There
I
you go,
thought it
Brian.
was similar.
Judas Priest, man.
Yeah, Judas Priest. I
You
thought
got
it was similar.
another thing coming.
Well, Minnesota already has a 90% wholesale tax.
Yeah, they do, but they're going to put it on mods and coils and
Yep.
batteries
Yeah.
because
Yep.
those are tobacco products. Who
Isn't that
writes
what's
these
her name?
laws? Oh,
Who's-
wait, I know who writes them. Who FCTC, and they give them to the tobacco control groups who have successfully tried these in third world countries, and now they're
Yeah.
going to push them on us because
It-
guess what? It keeps people smoking, and then the MSA fund keeps funded. So you know how it goes, you guys.
Yeah, hopefully
Yeah.
they don't start doing what they were doing in where was that? China, not China. What was the other place? Philippines, where they were arresting people for having vape products.
Yeah,
Oh,
Daniel, I believe that House bill is H991. I think that's the number on it. Am I right? Or it's either H991 or H995. Just it's a very long-winded bill, but you can go down and read the finer print.
yeah, Daniel, 98%.
Yeah,
If you were to buy, like, I vape a lot of Johnny Copper out of Florida, and I buy his wholesale, but if I was to buy it retail, it would be, uh, 98% tax. So when you go to checkout, you've got $100 worth of shit in your basket, and then the tax pops in, and you're like, whoa, it's $200. So yeah, that's how it works, man.
and that's when
Good old government.
I could buy 2 cartons of cigarettes with that.
Yeah, they're incentivizing you to smoke instead because it funds their MSA.
Yep, it funds their money, funds what they're doing, and it keeps all those ants working. Keeps them.
That's
using
right.
them.
I told that to an aunt at a testimonial one night. I said, hey, how do you go to sleep at night knowing that you're keeping people smoking? And he just looked at me and I said, that's what you're doing here.
I think everybody on this panel is banned from most of them on Twitter.
I've been blocked.
You guys know about the who's that? The anti-Juul crowd, the moms against
Pave,
yeah.
They, good Lord, if you can't see the ties to their political affiliations, I mean, my God, it's just right there in front of everybody, and people refuse to see the facts these days, and that just drives me nuts. And it's like, shut the camera down. I'm out of here. I'm going to have another beer and go piss in my bed.
What I've noticed here lately is I've always noticed the tobacco-free ones, the California tobacco-free ones in my news feed. But what I'm loving seeing now is the comments, because the comments I've gotten back to. It's finally. I don't know if people were just were vapors just afraid to comment on these things, that they were going to get backlash or whatever? But I comment on every single one of them. Anytime they come up on my feed, I just go into them every time.
Well, for example, I went after CTFK 6 years ago. I went after them. I knew who the problem was. I knew who was spreading the bullshit. And I was told by a major advocate, you guys probably all know him. I'm not going to mention the name. It's probably somebody that's Greek. But
we're going to talk about it.
That person told me it was political suicide to go after CTFK. And lo and behold, just a couple of years ago, everybody started going after CTFK. So maybe I'm just observant. Maybe I'm ahead of my time, but probably just observant. It's all right there in front of us. You guys pull up the WHO FCTC, do your research. Let's figure out a way to go after the head of the dragon instead of getting whipped by its tail and spattered with its shit.
Yeah. Speaking of that Greek guy and another guy that's a friend of the show, Nick Orlando. And
I love Nick.
We do too. We love Nick. We have Nick on a lot. Anytime we need someone to come on that or a guest canceled on us, Nick's our go-to guy.
Yeah, I'm sure he's proud of that title. So I'm your third choice, right?
He's also an extra guest on my sports show, so it works out great. Nick, I get Nick on both ends. But
you have a sports show? Do you cover the Packers at all?
Unfortunately, we have to cover the Packers. So.
Because they're always in it, bro.
We actually don't. I mean,
we try not to.
Sure, Brian. That one aside.
Brian tries to bring in the
bias showing Brian.
Oh, we have the Vikings news in once every 6 months. It's okay. they get their own little spotlight.
But what do you think those two gentlemen are doing right?
You mean Demi?
Nick and Dimitri. What do you think? Why are they getting? Oh, well, I'm going to try to get this out there. Why do you think things are working out for them? What are they doing different, and why isn't anybody watching and playing by their playbook?
Demi and Phil have a chemistry that is magic. Okay, they're entertaining. Their personalities, they put the work in. They go to China. They develop their mods. They're vapors. I mean, these guys have.
Yep. No, I mean as far as legislation in their state.
They engage. Come on, they engage. They're not afraid to tell the public servants who work for us. Let's not forget that what we expect them to do for us. Okay, not only that, but when you have a big fat check to hand them and say, not only do I want you to do what you're supposed to for us, but I'm going to hand you some money to make sure you do what we expect you to do. That goes a long way. It's all about money and power, you guys. Come on. I mean, Demi is a genius. The guy is incredibly intelligent. He's successful. He has many, many businesses. Phil Basardo comes from a long line of vape reviews. He's vetted. The guy, Nick Orlando, the guy is putting on the suit and tie and meeting with his legislators and representatives almost every week. That's what it takes. If you can't cut the head off the dragon, you got to be able to grab its tail and direct it somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what they do. They manage that end result the best they can, and that's why they're successful. That's why Florida, along with their governor and their legislature, are sympathetic to tobacco harm reduction.
Brewers. Who are the brewers?
That's some.
I'm just kidding. Well, hey, we are at the end of our show. I want to thank both of you guys for coming on. Kevin, thank you. And Morgan, thank you for coming on and sharing your story with us. And keep it up. Don't go back to the stinky stinkies. And Kevin, I think you helped shed some light to Tim, and all of us really. I think we may have you come on like once a month. What do you think?
Yeah, I can come on anytime you guys want. You know, I've got a mentally taxing job in IT, but I even tried to cancel on Brian earlier. I said, man, I'm just brain dead today. But, you know, that's why
I told him, no, you can't.
That's
Yeah.
why they make beer, because it re-energizes and
Yeah, see,
gives you youth again.
if you would have canceled, Brian would have got fined $100. So
Yeah.
Well, then
We
next time
would
we'll
have taken him
just-
out back and beat him up. That's
Yeah.
just that's our.
Hey, anytime you guys want me on, I've got a lot more information to share. I want to get THR for Life back in operation. It's been down for a while, and I think coupled with advocacy groups like CASA, I think the consumer voice has a lot more power than we ever imagined. So keep up the good work. You guys have an excellent show here. It's done professionally. I appreciate coming on, and I'd be more than happy to come back anytime you want.
sounds good. We enjoyed having you, Tom.
That's my. I need a beer
I need a beer.
motion. I don't know what that means.
The show's over, but I just can't end the show without hearing Tom's voice. Tom, can you say something? And don't say go Brewers. Don't say go Pack.
Tom is a radio personality.
Yes, I am. Sell us something. Hey, give us. Here you go. Ready?
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Alrighty then.
Come on. Give us one thing that's
Yeah.
cheesing Tom off
Okay.
before we end the show.
Now, Tom with the news.
Okay. Let me think quick.
Packer
Okay,
food.
here we go. The fact that more people outside of Wisconsin do not know how awesome Quick Trip is. That place is
We have them here in
phenomenal.
Georgia.
No, you don't.
What
You have it with a Q, not a K.
Oh,
You need it
Jesus.
with a
Oh,
K.
come on.
Not the same thing.
Not the same.
Okay, what
I
is
have
Quick
no
Trip, you
fucking
guys?
clue. Yeah, I have no idea what the hell that is.
It
Is,
is
is
just
that like
it's an
milk in a
amazing-
bag? Is that like milk in a bag?
That's where you get milk in a bag.
No, that's only in Canada, isn't it?
No, you get
No,
milk
they-
in a bag here too.
You have
Yeah,
freaking milk in a bag, and
Yes.
oh my god.
Well, Mallory found her brethren here on the show tonight because
Yes,
I don't know
Quick Trip
squat
is
about
awesome.
Quick Trip. I know
Wait a
about
minute,
my
who's
Quick
Mallory?
Trip. Mallory's in the
Mallory did.
comments. She said Quick Trip is awesome.
It's
Yes.
just like an
She
AM
knows.
PM here.
I
Like
thought
an
Quick
AM.
Trip was a nickname for DMT. I don't know.
No.
It's a well for me. It's a convenience store
Convenience
attached to a
store.
gas station.
That's
Yeah.
what it is here
God.
too.
Okay.
It's one of
So
those
it's like a
things
7-Eleven.
that's got everything. That's
Kind
fucking
of.
got everything.
Right,
Yes.
right, John. It's like a 7-Eleven. That's
Yeah,
what we're
7-Eleven.
used to.
Yes.
We got AM
AM
PMs.
PMs.
But
Yeah.
Quick Trips
Yeah, I'm
up
from
here
California. I
are way
know.
better.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
The roller grill is amazing. They got great food. Great
Oh,
coffee.
stop. Oh, time out. Now, fuck you. If you're saying a quick stop has great food,
Hey, I'm telling
You
you,
don't know.
when you get out,
When's the last time you were drunk at 2 a.m?
when you get
I'm
out as
saying.
far as I
a
am,
couple days
in a
ago.
town- in a town of 1,500 people, Casey's gas station has the best breakfast pizza around.
Oh,
Casey's
there
is
you
awesome
Oh,
too. It's
yeah,
a Midwest staple.
go.
And Culver's. Culver's is just fantastic.
Oh man, Culver's is freaking awesome.
Right?
Yeah,
People
Culver's
outside the
is.
Midwest just don't have a clue.
You gotta get
Hey.
the butter burger.
I do
course.
like Wahoo. Wahoo does have. I'm
The
Oh.
fuck is that?
Wahoo's fish tacos, hell yes.
Yeah, they do got good food. I'll give them that. When I was in Buffalo and New York,
I'm
and,
not going
and
to eat anywhere that is a sound of excitement.
they got damn good
That
coffee.
was like
too.
so
Wahoo's
quick
got
and so
good
loud there, Tom. Jeez.
coffee. Yeah, Wahoo.
Yeah,
No.
Wahoo's has some good fish tacos. They had them in Colorado when I lived there.
Now I wouldn't buy sushi there, but I buy some fish tacos there.
Hey, there's some good gas station sushi out there too, man. Don't
Yeah,
knock
there
it.
is. There is.
When you were in LA, you remember the alphabet ratings, right? Remember seeing those?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's a D. Do I buy sushi at a D rated fucking restaurant?
Depends on how hungry you are and how close the bathroom is.
Well, that's the saying a while back is I love sushi, I love gas stations, but I will never have gas station sushi.
No.
No.
I think we should make Brian buy some gas station sushi and eat it on the show and give us
Yeah.
a review.
Do they even,
yeah,
do they
I
even
think
have,
that's a
Milk in a
good show
bag
right
is
there.
life.
do
that
they
could
even
be-
have sushi in
yeah.
North Dakota?
That could be like
Yeah,
a
we got a
Monday
couple
night
restaurants.
live outside of football season. You could have Brian eating gas station sushi with a review.
It happens, Zach. Sometimes we just can't shut up.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you again, both, for joining us. We'll see everybody next week. Same time, same channel. Tom, what time does it come on in your state?
8.
8
PM.
p.m.
Well, yeah. 8
Central
a.m. I
Standard
pass
Time.
the hell out.
Right. And if you live in the greatest state in the world, no, I'm not going to go there. Everybody,
That would still be 8 o'clock.
It would.
everybody,
If
have
you
a
live
good
in the
night.
greatest state in the world, your governor is probably getting recalled.
Yeah, we're
Or he
trying.
should.
We're trying. We're trying. We're trying. But you think about it, both of them on each end of each end of the country needs to go.
Good
Both
night,
of them.
Mike.
Good night,
Good night,
everybody.
everybody.
I'm going
Hey.
to do the farting one, so I apologize. We'll have a new intro and outro next week. So